Digibot's front, actually.
Are you saying something to me?
No, I'm talking to the mic because I'm streaming.
Are you gonna be mad if I throw the cheese bits?
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna be mad if I throw the cheese bits?
Yeah,
It's tasty.
I want it though.
Well, you better hurry up and get it.
I'm streaming. I can't eat while streaming. I mean, I
Yeah.
suppose I could, but I'm not going to. It's kind of rude. What?
Okay.
No, it's not. It's not a mukbang.
Well, I don't know how you say it.
So I like to pronounce things correctly.
I don't know how it's spelled. Fine, I'm gonna close the stream since you said that.
Okay. Anyway. Back into it. We here. What happened? Let's see. I got a Spiritomb 2 times ago. Hold on, we gotta go back to the retro music. I got a Spiritomb and I leveled up and grinded up a bunch of Pokemon. And it looks like I could use the Pokemon Center right about now. But yeah, I got through the forest, battled some trainers, I grinded up my Pokemon to an appropriate level. Other than that, nothing eventful happened last time. Had Luke talking about Pokemon Go stuff. That's it. Oh, I caught a Drowsy here. This was the first encounter that I had. It was a Drowsy previous to this one. Not a great encounter, but like, whatever, man. I probably shouldn't risk that. Like, at all. Well, poop. Let's just lead with the strongest one for now. Just in case. JIC. I really want to go to the Pokemon Center in Goldenrod. Exposition dump, yay! Okay, whatever. This music's cute. It's very Gen 4. The Gen 4 music feels pretty superficial to me, if I'm gonna be honest. Not a big fan of it. Not saying it's bad, but it's not as good. It doesn't really stand out. There's nothing about Gen 4 music that I'm like, damn, that slaps. Gen 5 music, though. Gen 3 music, though. Lyra, hi, TechQ. Let me introduce you. This is TechQ. He's a trainer. He seems to be getting better at raising Pokemon. Well, not as good as you, Grandpa, of course. Follow me, TechQ. Oh, God. Fucking tutorials. I know how this works. At least we're back to the original Gen 2 music. Grandma, let me introduce you to my friend. This is TechQ. Aha, this is your boy friend? I see. What? Grandma, what are you talking about? He just happens to live nearby. I know. Since you brought him here, Lyra, you must be sure about his talent. Right, TechQ? Come see us anytime. Well, I better go. See ya. Alright. Oh, I almost forgot. Here, this is my Pokegear number. Damn, you gonna give me your number in front of your grandma and be like, he's not my boyfriend? That's sus as fuck. They do all sorts of cute stuff on the road and in towns. I'm taking notes every time they do funny things. Give me a call and I'll share some of them with you. Grandma, don't you say anything. We're both trainers and we are supposed to exchange numbers. That's all. Okay. Do you have any exposition to say? Nope, just I'm the daycare lady. Straight to business. Love it. No, like, no, like, commentary on it at all. I have an idea. I'll give you our numbers. Then you can check on the Pokemon we raised for you. TechQ registered the daycare man in the Pokegear. Daycare lady. I guess the man tells you if there's an egg and the lady tells you how the Pokemon in the daycare are doing? I'll be happy to have a use for this Pokegear my grandchild gave me. Oh, okay. That is pretty old people shit. Oh, can I get around this battle? Probably not. I gotta use up potions, just in case. I'm not walking all the way back through the forest just to heal. I don't have any regular potions? Well, Shisa. Ooh. Thought I would. Super potion, I guess. I don't want to waste a super potion. Oh, God. Alright. Wasting a super potion. There, that's the only one I anticipate needing. He's gonna lead with a Growlithe, I think. So I gotta watch out. I think the best I can do is neutral to Growlithe, and it's physical, so yep, leading with Aron is the move. Oh, sweet, I didn't have to battle. Perfect. Let's go heal. I wasted that super potion for nothing. Goldenrod, baby! One of the coolest cities in the franchise. Now, the question is, do I want to bring in Spiritomb to my party? And the answer is yes. Definitely the answer. And we are going to remove Skiploom, because fuck that. I also wonder if bringing in Drowsy might be a nice move. Timid. What is Timid? Let me see how the usage works in this here Ujibot. Okay, Nature, Timid. Okay, decreases attack, increases speed. That's actually really good. Versus... Oh, I gotta click in the window to move things. That would help. Versus... Impish. The fuck does Impish do? Nature... Impish. Plus defense minus special attack. That is actively bad, actually. For the sake of... Hold on, I'm trying to get a superior mic position here. This is annoying. What if I do it this way? Is that weird? Is this weird? You can't see it. You can kinda see it. You can kinda... whatever. It's not weird. Anyway. So... Impish is a terrible nature. Increases defense, which is fine, but it decreases special attack. Which I'm pretty sure... Stats. Is that a thing I can use? No. I gotta look into the commands. Oh, okay. So if I put Pokemon... eggs... How do you spell execute? Exeg... Cute. So it's attack. Yeah, see, its special attack is what you want to be high, and I'm losing that because of the nature. That's gonna matter later on. It's not gonna matter much now. And its defense is pretty bulky, which will help against Whitney. Whereas if I look up Pokemon Drowsy. 60, 48, the defense is not good. The special attack is not good. How is the special attack trash? The special defense is great. That might be one I keep in the back for later, actually. Oh, whoops. Click in the window again. Right? Like... Yeah, that might be one I keep in the back for when I lose a Pokemon. What is Hypno? Let me look up Hypno. Pokemon. Hypno. Yep, attack Stats not good, but its special defense is great. So yeah, there's like a hypnosis switch in type of deal. It might be good, but this is where having more experience might help. Excuse me. There we go. What moves do you know? What moves? What moves? Confusion, Dream Eater, Headbutt. You know Dream Eater, but not Hypnosis? Come on, dude. Useless. Alright, let me see. Learn set. Drowsy. What is it at level 18? It will learn Drain Punch? Is this right? I might have plugged in the wrong game. If it learns Drain Punch, that'd be interesting. Drain Punch, Meditate, Psybeam, Headbutt, Psych Up, Synchronize. That's way higher though. Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. I will level it up. I think. Well, no. Whitney's team is like all physical attackers, I'm pretty sure. Lickitung, Lopunny, Wigglytuff, Stantler, Clefable, Milk Tank, yeah. If that whole gym is going to be mostly physical attackers, then having Aron and Execute is going to be like key. It's going to be super key. High key, super key, super base. Oh, the moves are right there. I wish I'd paid attention. That's actually pretty useful. Yeah, I think we stay with Execute for now. Yeah. Alright, let's go fight those trainers. Level up. Do what needs to be done around the city. Oh my god, why is Lyra calling? Is it anything useful? Hello, this is Lyra. How are you? You know, if you're going over to Route 39, you should take a milk tank along with you. It will find so many friends over there. Alright, yep, useless. Confirmed. Thought it'd be better because she's like a key NPC, but nope. So they mentioned that they removed the bike shop, is that true? Isn't this the bike shop? Goldenrod Archaeological Facility, definitely not a bike store. Wow. I kind of love it. There's a bunch of bikes here still. What are you talking about, not a bike store? Hello, thank you for coming to our archaeological center. This place used to be pretty useless. Then Cynthia showed up, and that all changed. Her prowess is incredible. That Stephen Stone is pretty good with archaeology too. Anyway, since this is your first visit, let me give you a generous gift. I wish everyone did this every time I went somewhere. The best archaeology has to offer: a root fossil. Pretty sure that's Laleep. And a claw fossil, Anorith. Oh my god, Helix fossil, the Omastar, Dome fossil, Kabuto. This motherfucker's just throwing fossils at me. Armor fossil, I think that's Bastiodon. Skull fossil for the other one. My man just gave me so many fossils. What the fuck? As far as Johto's concerned, they're one of a kind. You can talk to the man at the counter if you want to try reviving them. Oh wow, this game's just handing me Pokemon, which is, I guess, good for a Nuzlocke run. Shit. I'll take it. Just hand me those Pokemon, bud. Oh yeah, bud. Alright. Welp. Let's see. Oh yeah, let me talk to Cynthia. Thank you, it's good to see you again. This is an in-progress base that is built for archaeologists. So it's a good place for me to stay around. You know, if you find or get given any ancient-looking items, you should bring them to me. I might be able to decipher their meaning. Okay. That's definitely foreshadowing as a motherfucker. Also, like, when playing Gen 4, I don't remember Cynthia being, like, saying anything about archaeology. Ever. Like, I don't think once. I could be wrong, obviously, but I don't think she does. It's real weird. Hello, welcome to New Goldenrod Archaeology Center. This used to be a to be used to be a bike shop, but they haven't cleared away half the trash. Ahem. Will you need my help with the revival of fossils today? Can I get a bike too, if you're trying to get rid of them? If you have any fossils on you, I can use our technology to extract the DNA. Is it one at a time? How does this work? I mean, like a Kabuto might be kind of sick. My team is heavily physically offensive right now, so maybe... Well, shit. I feel like all of them except Lilith are physically offensive. Right? I'm not so sure anymore. And I mean, like, all the base forms are pretty trash. And then all the evolved forms are pretty good. Which one is which? What the fuck is the armor fossil again? Does Dr. Fujibot do items? Oh, cool. Item... armor fossil. Shieldon. Right. And then the other one is, Bastiodon. Or is Bastiodon? Bastiodon's the evolved form of Shieldon. I forget the name of the... Rampardos. There we go. Well, shit. I'm not really a huge fan of those Pokemons. I'm gonna go for either Kabutops, Kabuto, Anorith, or Laleep. Pokemon... Laleep. Rock and grass. I don't need another grass type, but it is rock. So it would... We look up weaknesses with this stuff. I'm learning all the commands right now. Weak. Okay, here we go. Weak, rock, grass. Rock grass is weak to steel bug, fighting, and ice. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. I do have too many fucking grass types right now, though. I'm pretty sure Pokemon Abu. Oops. Yep, water. Most of them are water type. And I could roll a water encounter pretty easily. But despite having so many grass Pokemon right now, I feel like, hold on, let me exit this menu and like look at my team and think. Yeah, let me think about this, bro. Yeah, I have Execute, Nuzlocke, and then I have a what's the evolved form called? Skiploom in the back that I might not use. So I am unsure of what to do here. Let's look up learn set Laleep. Astonish, Engram, Confuser, Amnesia, Gastro Acid, Ancient Power, Energy Ball, Stockpile, Spit Up, Swallow. Weak, Rock, Water. Electric, Fighting, Ground, and Grass. That is interesting. That is interesting. How does our team do against electric, fighting, ground, and grass? I mean, like, moderately well against electric with all the grass types. And Ava helps. Fighting... not great. Yeah, fighting is all of them. Ice, not great either. There's holes. There's holes in both. Ground, so there's, let me see, electric we're good. Fighting is really the only one we have to worry about. if we go for a rock water type with this same team composition, which is subject to change, I am damn well sure. Let's go with a rock water type for now, which leaves all of the ones I said open except for Lilip. So now I have more decision making to do. I think it's between Anorith and Kabuto right now. So let's see. Pokemon Kabutops. Its attack is beastly. Its defense is pretty good. So let's see. Pokemon Armaldo. Armaldo. Oh, it's Rock and Bug. I didn't know that. Thought it was water for some reason. Weak, Rock, Bug. Oh man, yep, Armaldo. Armaldo. Bedbug typing. It's only weak to steel, water, and rock. That's actually really good. And Armaldo's stats are also pretty fucking good. Yep, we're going with Armaldo. I'm assuming I can only do one at a time, which is probably not an accurate assumption. Yeah, the claw, I'm pretty sure, is Anorith. Yes, please. I'll see what I can do. Give me some time, come back later. Alright, I still gotta get my Pokeballs from Kurt anyway. So maybe now's the time to do that. Battle those trainers. Maybe I level up Drowsy just because I can. In case I want to keep it in the back. Or later. Callous Shinobi enters the room. Oh, I love inside jokes. What up? Damn, he's gonna call me an idiot right off the bat. That's right, Callous Shinobi. Callous Shinobi, everyone. Baka! Baka des! What am I doing here? That's what everyone asks themselves. What am I doing here? Yeah. Let's level up this Drowsy. Cool. So I'm gonna head back, work on those trainers, go get the Pokeballs from Kurt that he has, whatever the hell they are, as a form of training. What's in the docket today? Ivory Shinobi asks. So, just got to Goldenrod. In this mod, they added a really interesting, like, fossil, reviver people here, I'll show you, where they, this one dude just, like, dumped a bunch of fossils on me, like, literally all the fossils up until Gen 4, and Cynthia's in here. They turned the bike shop into a archaeology society, and they're like, hold on, let me read the sign outside, because it's pretty entertaining. It says, quote, Goldenrod Archaeological Facility. Definitely not a bike store. I went in here, I got a bunch of fossils from this dude. And then Cynthia's here just chilling for some reason in Johto. And then I gave this guy a claw fossil. Wow, you made Anorith that quickly? That took like 2 seconds. Holy hell. My party's full. Okay, well. Yeah, it's super cute. I love it. I'm gonna pull out Anorith and level Anorith up instead of this dumb Drowsy. Even though the Drowsy has a great nature and I shouldn't insult my own Pokemon. Sorry, buddy. Okay, okay. Someone's PC. Move the Pokemon. We gotta deposit Drowsy. Move, bud. Get out of here. Get out of here. Alright.
Fine, I will.
Not you, babe. I love you. Don't leave me. Alright, let me go get that Anorith so I can level it up. This game just throws Pokemon at you, like it gives you Pokemon, which is great for a Nuzlocke run. Yeah, this is the same Nuzlocke run I've been doing. Every Shinobi asks, this is a continuation of an earlier Nuzlocke run. This is the same game I've been playing this whole time. Yeah, dude, give me my Anorith. I would like that. Thanks, bud. Tech Cube received the Anorith. Would you like to give it? I mean, yeah, I gotta give it a nickname. That's part of the rules. Shinobi, you want to help me give a name here? I don't know what to name it. Name it Shrimp or something. There you go, Kunap. No, I'm not gonna do that. Charles? Alright, if you insist. We're doing it. L E S. Let's go. Can I drop another fossil off with you? Hell yeah. Yeah, dude, give me wait, I have. Oh, I thought I had. Never mind. Okay. Dome fossil, let's go. Fuck Lord Helix. I said fuck Lord Helix. Can I leave more? No, okay. Now, what level is this Anorith? Alright. Oh, level 20, look at that. Wow. I don't need to level it up. Hardened Mud Sport, Water Gun, Metal Claw. Nice moveset. Swift Swim. I'll definitely want to keep that alive. What's the nature? Is it a good nature too? Impish. What does Impish do again? I think I already did that. Nature, Impish. Increases defense, decreases special attack. I think that's okay because this is physically offensive, if I'm not mistaken. Nice, dude. Nice. I actually do want to level raise that Drowsy. Oh, fuck. I'm in some stranger's home. Might as well talk to them, I guess. Oh, that's the lady that looks at your Pokemon to see if they love you. Why can't I go any lower than this to move? That's insane. That's real weird. Alright, let me level up the Drowsy just in case I need to use it later. Someone's PC. Move Pokemon. Uh-huh. Let's leave the Anorith for now. How do I look up what level things evolve at? Okay. Evolve Anorith. Anorith evolves into Armald at level 40? Yeah, that's staying in the box for now then, because I'm pretty sure Anorith's stats are trash. Pokemon Anorith. Oh, actually not bad. Let me see what the totals are in Pokemon DB here. It's up there with the other Pokemon I have currently in my party anyway. Not great, but it's not terrible. Yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and level up Drowsy here. I might go ahead and speed the game up, turn the sound off, and play some music for y'all here. First, let me do the trainer battles, and then I'll do that. Because I do not want to rush through those. I don't want to get wrecked. Let's put Drowsy in the front to train it up. And we will go from there. Alright, let's battle. Come at me. Confident in my abilities to raise Pokemon. Want to see? Yeah, I do. I do want to see. Camper Tots on Weasel. Okay, so I think having just like 2 solid grass Pokemon here helps a lot. Oh, I deposited one of them. 1 solid grass Pokemon. That said, yeah, let's just make things easy. Oh. The pursuit. The pursuit. Damn. 1 hit. Look at that. That was it. I mean, shit, the AI in this game knows what it's doing. No, I do not want to have your phone number. Yeah, fuck you, kid. Don't have any confidence I can beat you again. Ooh, Aerial Ace. That is a great move. I want to heal this just in case the next Pokemon has Pursuit as well. That was ridiculous. I did not expect Weasel to have Pursuit. That was more than a little alarming. I was like, oh shit. More than a little. Boop, 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 boop. Alright, now we battle this guy. Oh, what? Oh, you only do it at night. I totally forgot about that. Let's battle the trainers here. Nope, 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 nope. Don't want to headbutt. Yo, affable idiots in the house. I'm assuming it's Chad. I'm the best in my class of Pokemon. Youngster Ian. Alright, let's go. Shit. What do I want to do here? Nah, it's Holden. I can tell just by the way you're talking that I don't think it's Holden, but maybe. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, he does? Okay, fine. You've proven that it's actually you and not Chad. I mean, yeah, like, I'm also, he said he's too lazy to make his own and uses the Affable Idiots account. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm streaming from Tequila, as opposed to, like, a new IP. Oh, you're in the voice chat? I haven't even hopped in. Hold up. I can, though. But then I have to change the audio settings, I think.
I can hear you.
Oh no, we're good. Oh, but you're hearing the wrong mic. Hold on. Oh no, you're hearing the right mic.
Oh.
You're hearing the correct mic. I'm incorrect. The settings are correct.
Boom. That was a little weird for a second because like you're 7 seconds or something like that behind on Twitch. So I heard you say something, and all of a sudden you're here. I'm like, whoa, what is time?
Time is nothing, dude. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek, and there's been a lot of fun little time episodes.
It's relative.
It is relative. It is relative.
I don't know if it's actually true or not, but I would like to believe that like if you get super close to a black hole, time is in like half or something like that, or it runs at like a slower rate than normal.
Yeah, I forget. It gets fucky where like you seem to have frozen to everyone observing from the outside, but to you, everything in the outside's moving really fast.
Yeah.
And I don't understand experientially what that's like. For someone to go through that. Hold on, I gotta change the sound settings here real quick.
I mean, it would probably feel like. Well, I'll let you fix the sound stuff before we start talking about theoretical physics that, to be frank, neither of us really actually understand.
You're saying that we're not qualified to talk about physics? What?
Probably not. I mean, I watched Cosmos, so I'm an expert.
Yeah, that means that I know everything there is to know, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan. I'm an expert. Carl
Sagan, I like. So, fun fact, I'm gonna... Hold on, I want to think about what I switch into here. I think Togetic is the move. Carl Sagan for me in high school. So like, I don't think you know this about me. My mom raised me in a cult. And
No, I did not know about that.
yeah, so
Like, we talking about like a Heaven's Gate kind of cult? Like, how extreme are we talking here?
so it's not extreme in like the harm that it does, but it was somewhat militant and like a lot of like fundamentalist Christian groups is like kind of like homophobic and stuff. And so like my sister was like at the end of high school like trying to come out as bi, and my mom was like, "What? No."
Ooh, that's
Yeah, it's
scary
bad.
for your sister. Holy shit.
It's not great.
Very brave of her, too.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like my mom's a good mom and she would accept it, but she'd also like say backhanded things about it a handful of times.
Yeah.
Because like we have gay family members that she openly accepts, but there's like, you know, I don't know. I think she personally has come to accept it despite what the cult preaches.
Yeah, it's like one of those like Southern hospitality things. Like, I'm going to be nice to your face, but really I'm thinking something else.
Yeah, I mean, my mom is the opposite though, because she's just a loud Latino woman. That's our family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She says what she thinks. My mom said to my sister, like one of the backhanded comments she said was like something about her quote unquote iniquitous lifestyle or something. And it's like, oh, geez, not good. But the cult.
Completely, because I got a phone call coming in.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. I got your Where did you end? Where are you?
My mom said to my sister, quote, that she was living a quote unquote iniquitous lifestyle. Me and my sister just laugh at that.
That's just like a ridiculous statement. It's like not funny though.
I mean, it is though, because my sister and I laugh about it all the time.
Okay, well, it's good you guys could laugh about it, because that could be like horrible.
I mean, we have to, because it is horrible. But
Yeah.
is Bonsly rock type? Hold up, I gotta look this up. Pokemon Bonsly.
Bonsly can identify however it wants to. It doesn't have to conform to a certain type, right, Daniel?
Alright, but it does though, because this is Pokemon. Kind of how the game works. I think I'm gonna go out to the Steel type. Yeah, so the cult is called the Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research. I hesitated to call it a cult until I was a few years out of it, and then I was like, yeah, it was a cult. Oh, that was the wrong switch in, apparently. I almost lost my fucking Aaron. Jesus H. Christ.
Ooh, yeah.
That went poorly.
So wait, what makes it a cult?
So, I'll explain. The Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, first off, just the name. IDMR.
Yeah.
Second off, it's fundamentalist Christianity, so they like teach that the name Jesus and Lord and God are all wrong, and that it's Yahweh, Yahshua, and Elohim. So they use like.
Oh, I hadn't even heard about that. I didn't even know that's a thing.
Yeah. So like that's a thing in a few fundamentalist groups, but the IDMR is like the biggest one that I know of that like rejects using Jesus and uses Yahshua and whatnot. So that's one of the big things. And they have, if you just like Google Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, you'll see that there are charts, and I am used to them because I was literally raised in it. But for people who are not familiar with it, it looks like an acid trip. Like if you took Ivory Shinobi, damn the Hebrew names. Are you saying damn the Hebrew names or damn, comma, the Hebrew names?
Commas are important in these moments.
Commas are very important. Nah, but so my mom raised me in this cult, and actually Ivory Shinobi will know because we went to high school together. That like I didn't really tell my friends about it in high school, and like they'd be like, "Yo, let's hang out," and I would just tell them, "Nah, it's Tuesday, I can't," and I never told them why. It was because of Bible class.
Yeah, Tuesdays. It's Tuesday's the day you just can't hang out with people. It's a thing. You do not know about that?
Right. And they just became a meme where it's like, nope, Daniel can't hang out. It's Tuesday, and we don't know why. He won't tell us. I was too embarrassed to say what the fuck it was. But yeah, so they use they use Yahweh, Yahshua, Elohim, Anglicizations of the Hebrew names. I know it's not the correct pronunciation, but so they also basically they believe, like what makes it a cult is they believe that most people, if not everyone, that is not in the Bible class are going to hell. And
Okay.
they're pretty militant about it. And was there a Rybrook chapter of it? Shinobi asks. No, it was in Queens. We drove to Queens from Rybrook every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And I stopped doing it the older I got. And then once I went to college, I stopped altogether. 2 hours a week in Bible class, an hour drive there, and then an hour back. My mom destroyed my like high school time, my schedule. Yeah, anyway, and so hold on, I gotta figure out what to do with this Bonsly as I talk about the idea more, just talk shit. But yeah, so what makes them a cult is, one, they believe that most, if not everyone that's not in the Bible class, are going to hell. Two, they believe that what original sin is literally everyone is born with the spirit of the devil in them, and that Yahweh has to put the Holy Spirit, Yahshua, in your body and kick out the devil, or you're not going to be saved. Three, logical fallacy. They believe that the real you, like the you, is the devil, and then when you're cast out, the real you is cast out and it's just filled with God. And I'm like, then why am I here? If like no matter what I'm going to hell, then what the fuck is the point? So just a little logical fallacy on that one.
Hell then?
Right. It's like I'm going to hell no matter what. We're just existing. So this is a really shitty God if that's the case.
They also have Pokemon in hell, so how bad could hell really be?
That sounds like a great hell to me. Shit. Fornication and Pokemon, count me in. But then, so I mean, drugs, fornication, and Pokemon. What more could I want? So the icing on the cake of this is a cult, and it took me like a year or two of being out of it and in college to be like, was this just like a very insular group that believed weird shit, or was it a cult? They literally believe, so they like correlating a lot of physical things to things in the Bible. So like the tabernacle, if you're familiar with that, it has 3 parts.
I'm not.
The tabernacle has 3 parts. They would correlate the tabernacle and the stuff inside of it and its 3 parts to things in the real world, like the atom, the proton, the neutron, the electron. It has 3 parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then like little parts within the tabernacle to the human body. They do a lot of correlating. So one of the correlating things they did was that Yahweh himself, God himself, came into a body, Shinobi says, fornicating, acid tripping, metagrosses. That sounds dope. I'm about that.
But Satan incarnate right there.
Right. No, but they believe that Yahweh himself, God in the fullness, they say in quotes, came into a physical body 5 times in history. And they also believe, just like religious fundamentalists, that history is only like 6,000 years or whatever.
I was going to ask if they were like absolutists like that, like the universe was made in 7 days, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Oh, also one of the things they like bring in scientific articles and like try to correlate them to like the religion. So like they found an article that like scientists, and I don't even know if this is true, if this is some pseudoscience bullshit, that scientists apparently were able to record the sound a black hole makes. Haven't confirmed this after Bible class because don't really think about Bible class that often anymore. But supposedly the sound of black holes sounds like a millions of people moaning. It's like a low moan. And so people in Bible class were like, these are previous creations that Yahweh made and sent to the lake of fire. Like that kind of shit. Anyway, so...
Hey, you know what? At least they believe in something scientific in the sense they believe in black holes. At least it's like a step.
But it's almost like...
the conclusion they're making, but...
People try to draw when I say Institute of Divine Metaphysical Research, they're like, so Scientology, and it's like, hey.
Yeah, I thought about Scientology too.
I guess, but like Christian. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's hard. Like within the monotheistic Christian model. So again, let me finish the point I was trying to make, I guess. I keep derailing myself.
I derailed you too, sorry about that.
No, I did more than you did. So they believe that Yahweh in the fullness, quote unquote, came into a physical body 5 times, like a hand in a glove, like a hand, right? There's 5. They are Adam, Noah, Yahshua or Jesus, Paul the apostle, and the kicker is the last one, Dr. Henry Clifford Kinley, the person who founded the idea mark. So there you go. They believe that the person who founded their little Bible school is literally God in a body.
So that is similar to Scientology.
Yes it is.
That's hilarious. And Scientology, as we know, is a real religion.
Oh, the other thing, they whenever you become a member, they call you doctor within the context of the school. And so they call people up to like preach in air quotes at random, and they give you a pointer and there's charts and you talk and you can pull scriptures to read scriptures and stuff, whatever. And whenever they call people up that are like formally joined, it'll be Dr. Vilma Reguera for my mother, let's say. And yeah, obviously that's not a real doctor. They give you some sort of bullshit piece of paper. It's like, you're a doctor now. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
I was gonna be like on a plane, and it's like, oh my god, this person's choking. Do we have a doctor here? Well, why, yes, I am a doctor.
Right.
Let me help out.
And they would use that sometimes on the floor, is what they called it when they were preaching. On the floor, they would say, they would use that example and be like, no, but I'm, like, it's like, no, we shouldn't, like, joking, like, ha ha ha, no, we wouldn't help there. But if you were looking for what did they say? If you're looking to help heal your soul, then we are doctor, like that kind of thing. And it's like, oh god. Yeah.
So on the plane, to be like, we need a doctor. Is their soul in trouble? Oh no, they're choking. It's not for me. I can't help with that.
Every Shinobi's Alex. I'm not gonna dox him. You know who Alex is. But yeah. Anyway, I was raised in that. It was crazy. I forget why I brought up cults, but I forget the original reason off the top of my head. I don't know what to do here. So,
yeah, I don't remember how we got into that either, but that's really interesting. That's really, like, hugely fucked up.
It's so bizarre. And, oh, so, like, this is why I brought it up. You brought up Carl Sagan. In my, like...
Oh, yeah.
Forming my own ideologies and ways of thinking and stuff, I had... you know, to start, like, basically getting out of that religion bit by bit, even though I was still attending, sometimes with my mom. Shinobi says, please don't dox me. I started, like, I was in AP European history and, you know, started reading, like, all the, like, philosophers of the Enlightenment period and, like, the deists and stuff, and, like, got really into, like, learning about other cultures and stuff, and so, like, started learning about different religions and, like, found them fascinating. I started meditating a lot, but then I also got really into, like, just, like, actual science and Carl Sagan and like the cosmos and shit. And so Carl Sagan was like really inspirational for me in high school and early college, and gave me like the spiritual outlet I needed while actually still believing in real science, if that makes any sense. Carl Sagan was very about like science and the world is very beautiful, and that like there is some sort of like human natural beauty in that we can get meaning from, as opposed to just like religious dogma. Yeah,
I also think that's a good stepping stone too. And like I'm agnostic. I wouldn't say I'm like a full-on atheist, but just because I don't know, I have no idea,
right?
But the which I feel is separate from like organized religion, which I think we can both agree is just a huge mess and a disaster.
Yes,
but I feel like for someone who is like hugely religious, you need to have that segue. You can't just say, no, God's not real. You kind of have to say like, okay, all right, surprise, like God's real. It's a real thing. Science is his laws playing out in practice, and we're trying to understand his laws. I think that's a good segue to moving away from that kind of stuff. It's kind of like the only way.
Yeah.
Because you can't have someone just jump up 10 flights of stairs. You need to walk up step by step.
Yep. And it was oh, I'm double checking Spiritom's weakness here before I get wrecked on accident. Just to not lose a Pokemon in a Nuzlocke. Okay, yeah, Fairy's the only weakness. I was using my little Fujibot in chat. Okay, so I think I'm good here. I think I'm good, eh? What does Dark do? Neutral damage. And you were bound to not be that strong.
Oh, is that a command line on the bottom? Oh, that's so cool.
Uh-oh.
So you just type in, is the command !weak, and then you type in the type, and then it returns back?
Yep. So you could do, I might just have it on for me only right now, but it's like, if I put Pokemon Spirit Tomb, it'll give me the stats and the typing, and the abilities.
Interesting.
And then you could do, I don't know, learn set, Spirit Tome, and it'll give you...
Spirit Tome is Rule Bender?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's this Pokemon.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's super useful. I struggled to set up this bot because I installed it like a week ago and I was like, I couldn't get it to run properly. So I spent like maybe 30 minutes before going on getting it to run properly, and I was like, sweet, now it works. Now we can go. But yeah, I think you're right in the terms of like, in the sense of hold on, I'm trying to think and talk at the same time, and it's hard.
No worries.
Yeah, like you're totally right. But like also, I don't know. I still like, I agree with you on the whole like agnostic thing, and that organized religion and all that shit. And not to like, I feel like there are. It's more like the institutions of religion as opposed to organized religion that suck. Like the Catholic Church itself.
That's fair. Yeah.
As opposed to, like,
I suppose like people organizing with a collective idea.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because there are like individual Catholics who aren't, like fucking pedophiles.
Are you saying the Catholic is a pedophilia problem? How dare you? That's a conspiracy theory.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah, because it's like I like to draw a line between spirituality and religion. I feel like it's really, really important to make that boundary. Like, I just don't think that as human beings, we know enough to say definitively, oh, there's no way there's a God. I just don't think we know enough to make such
of course not.
a huge claim. We also don't know enough to say that there is God either. That's kind of why I don't like to play like atheist or whatever, or a specific religion. Yeah. Because I also feel like, in my problem with like, I think institutional religion's a better way I'm phrasing it, is that I don't like, if there is a God, if that is real, I don't think he gives a shit about us, or they gives a shit about us.
Right.
Like, I don't think they made this entire universe with more stars than grains of sand on our beaches to focus on one planet. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So that's the part I'm like hugely against. But like, let's say simulation theory is real, that would have to be a God.
Yeah, I would think that something like that is more plausible in the sense of like, maybe it's not a simulation in the sense of like a computational thing, but it's a simulation in the sense of like, I don't know, we're like in some sort of like equivalent of a petri dish, right? And that's just that's the existence that we live in. Like, that's our universe, is the petri dish kind of thing. Yeah, I could see that.
Exactly, yeah. And I also think it's impossible to discern what the purpose of that simulation. Like, can you imagine like the whole like idea of going back to like the medieval times or whatever and showing a smartphone, them trying to figure out what we use that smartphone nowadays, and then we would say, oh yeah, we use this so I can type in ! Learn set Spiritom, so I can get like they would never be able to comprehend any of that.
Right.
So it's impossible for us to discern what a civilization that maybe is millions of years older than us is doing with a simulation like this. It just it's impossible to know.
The other thing is like, if there is, to your point about like, if there is a God, blah blah blah. Stephen Fry, who's like,
he's awesome.
Yeah, he makes really good points of like, he doesn't do the oh god, what's the name of that? Sadie. She's not listening.
Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, where he's like aggressively atheist. And like,
yeah, I hate that too.
In a shitty way, and it's like super fucked up and oftentimes like Islamophobic.
He's basically on the opposite spectrum of like the crazy West Baptist people.
Yeah,
he's like the same kind of crazy, but just on the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah, and it's just super fucked. And Dawkins sucks, but Stephen Fry is more like the cool kind of atheist. I remember I saw a YouTube thing with him, and it was an Irish, I guess it was Irish television, and they're super Catholic. So he was saying, suppose that you're wrong and there is a God and you get greeted by God in death. What will you say to him, her, or it? And he says, what does he say? He says like, death of children? What for? Why are you doing this to me? There's a species that literally apparently like its whole life cycle is to like get larvae in the eyes of children and burrow out, blinding them. Why? That's totally unnecessary, right? That didn't have to exist. There's so much suffering in the world that isn't our own. And it's like, He's absolutely correct. It's like, if there is a God, then he says this in an interview, a fucking monster for making shit like that isn't our fault and making us suffer that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that.
And he goes on to say, now, if there's something more like the Greek gods, then, you know, I could get on board with that, because they always pretended to be human in their appetites and not to be, you know, all-knowing, all-loving, and all that shit. Shinobi says, I remember Dave Eggers, I don't know how to pronounce that, being relevant to this group of modern thinkers. I don't know who that is, but I'm assuming he's talking about Hawkins. Or, did I say that right? Dawkins, not Hawkins.
Dawkins, yeah.
We're talking about...
Stephen Hawking's, too, is pretty harsh on...
Was he?
I'm pretty sure he was, yeah. Not Richard Dawkins levels, not like that. Actually, he's probably, although I'm going to be more fair, he's probably closer to Carl Sagan.
Yeah, Carl Sagan, what I loved about Carl Sagan is that he might in a debate, but when talking on things like Cosmos or in his books, he never said, religious people, they're so fucking dumb, right? Like, he never did shit like that. He always, in fact, he has this little bit, and I forget if it's from Pale Blue Dot or whatever, because I consume everything by Carl Sagan on YouTube. But there's a bit that he calls, what is it, a convenient fable or something like that? Where it's like, we as humans long for someone to point us in the right direction, a parental figure, because life sucks and it's hard. And like, religion is that outlet for a lot of people. And a lot of the dogma really like satisfies the needs of like, life sucks and there's a reason for it sucking. And so like, humans kind of crave, I think he calls it a convenient fable, or I gotta look it up now. I'm curious. But yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent point. It's humanizing them instead of being like, these fucking idiots.
Yeah, those fucking idiots, no matter what context or what situation, is never an effective argument. Because if I've been in a conversation with someone calls me an idiot, the only thing I think is, well, they probably don't have anything to say. They don't actually have anything to debunk or counter what I'm saying. They just don't agree, and they don't know how to say it.
Right.
So
and also, like, even if they do, that's not like a real talking point. Like,
yeah,
that's not it's fucking ad hominem, right? It's a fallacy.
Yeah, exactly. And we were kind of talking about like explaining religion. I also think it kind of shows how, this isn't true of all religions, but how anxious people are, that so many people in the world believe that there's someone watching them at all times and judging everything that they do so that they can be accepted at the end of their life as good or bad. Yeah. That's like, incredibly anxious thinking.
If you need that to be a good person, then you're not a good person.
Well, so we should always be thinking about our actions. Like, it's not that that's the issue, but it's like this idea that like, you need to be judged one way or the other. No one, the world is not black or white like that.
Right, there's no gray.
There has to be a gray area. But it's this idea of like constantly being watched. Like, I have anxiety, and I do have anxiety. Like, oh my God, I said this thing. Did that person think, X, Y, or Z because I said that thing? And like, it's that, but on this like level of literally every single thing that I do, an invisible person's watching me. Right. And it's just like, there's organized religion or like there's organizations around this. It's permeated since the existence of humans, basically. Right. Yeah, it's big. But yeah. So Pokemon.
Well, I'm looking up weaknesses real quick. Sweet, not weak to grass. So I'm gonna send out Ava, I think, here. Or do I want to send out Miss Bear? What moves do you know? Feint attack, cut, fury swipes. I think I want Ava. What moves do you know? We try Metal Claw. Let me look up what Ivysaur's weak to real quick. Weak, poison, no, grass poison. I don't know if the order matters, but I think it does. I'm not entirely sure. Can you look up resistance? Resist. Grass, poison. Cool, I can. This bot is pretty convenient.
Ivory Shinobi, Dave Eagleman, is that a neuroscience professor at Stanford University? I think I found him.
Oh, he founded McSweeney's? I like McSweeney's. That kind of sucks. Damn, because McSweeney's is like a really fun little like print magazine that does fun design, but also like really snarky, like social critique. That kind of sucks.
I think Dave Eggers is a different person. Well, now I'm confused. Everybody should be says, yeah, that's him, but we both said different things. So I'm confused now which one it is. Is he the neuroscience professor?
Oh, no, he said Dave Eagleman is what he's thinking of, not Eggers. Yeah, okay. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'll look into him.
I'm getting put to
Yeah,
sleep.
I find the religion conversation really, really fascinating because I feel like we're in this transition period in society where we're moving away from that kind of more traditional view of organized religion. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if something like simulation theory ended up becoming a new prominent religion in the next, several hundred years. It evolves to something bigger.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it interesting to think of because, like, the origins of the universe and all that stuff are like, at this point, unanswerable. And so, like, that is a theory that answers that for sure.
Yeah.
He said Eagleman's the prof and Eggers is the author. Both white men who speak in academic context. I mean, there's a lot of those. Oh, wake up, please. Wake up, god damn it. Stop. Son of a bee. You're just gonna keep doing recoil damage. More damage to yourself than you do to me. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the religion thing's interesting. It's like, I also, like, do have a respect for, like, I mean, like, to a degree, like, other religions as well, and I wonder if this is a grass is greener thing, or if it's just, like, I am attempting, or I'm, like, being a humanist, but, like, I don't know, I find, like, Islam and Buddhism and all that shit interesting, especially from a cultural perspective. Jesus Christ, that was a critical hit, and I almost lost my Pokemon.
Oh yeah, you can't separate religion from culture in the context of human history. You can't
of course
do it.
not.
It's impossible.
And I do find them interesting, like, even, I don't know, I have friends that are, like, devout Muslims, and, like, I don't know, just, like, talking to them about, like, their practices and stuff. I mean, like, baked into Islam is, like, you have to give charity. It's one of the pillars. And I'm like, that's dope. A lot of Christians don't do that.
Not through the church, but, like, separately on your own.
Yep. It's
Well,
like, you don't
church,
pay
but the
tithe.
mosque,
Well, I
but
guess
you
you
do the same
do. I guess you do pay tithe to the mosque, but, like, to keep it running. But, like, yeah, it's like you have to give X amount of your earnings to charity. Like, that's just one of the pillars,
Yeah. See, I feel like stuff like that is good, which is why I don't like to bash religion, because there are positive parts to it. And I do wonder, I know this is kind of like very much a talking point of a lot of people, or a lot of conservatives, but I do kind of wonder, like, as we move farther from religion, how much things like that are going to go away and how that could be detrimental.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those that, like, as a socialist, it's just a matter of restructuring society. Because, like,
yeah,
I would argue that, like, in the feudal mercantile context, like pre-capitalist economy that's still somewhat mercantile, or feudalism, that, like, charity's a good thing, and that, like, those governments, it's hard for them to, like, do good for the people, you know what I mean? Whereas, like, we can, in the modern age, build I mean, we are, if I'm gonna get on my Marxist shit, we are basically in a post scarcity society. By that I mean, we make enough food to feed literally every human being, 2,000 calories a day. We could easily house every human being if we chose to do so, but we just choose
man-made
not
scarcity as opposed to natural scarcity.
Exactly. So we live, like, because of how, like, highly productive capitalism is. We have enough to feed everyone, but the way that the capitalism power structure works is it just chooses not to. And so like we go from like, you know, charities being the only answer to, well, let's restructure society to like actually care for these people and have a robust housing, you know, and all that shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Feeding everyone kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is like, oh man, the Expanse, the book series.
I really want to. I'm probably
So
watching the show before I read the book.
Yeah.
But I really want to watch the show at the least.
The show, I have a bias because I'm being like a fucking nerdy fanboy for the book series, and well, also okay, even without fanboying for the books over the show, the color grading in the first season turned me off really hard because it's aggressive color grading. It's like really blue, like really deep blues and grays, just to be like, we're in space. Hey, reminder, we're in space. And also the first book is supposed to be written as like satirizing noir as a genre, but then like the first season like just is a noir. It's not like, it only like barely satirizes it, if at all. And so they're leaning into like that color grading for like noir and space, and it's just really heavy-handed. And I was like, maybe I'll watch this later. But everyone who's watched the show says it's really good, so I should watch it.
My dad is a super fan of that show. He also loves the book series.
The book series is so fucking good. What's also really good about it is that like you can tell that there is like a literal team of people helping when it comes to like anthropology research and like science research and shit like that, because they nail it. It's so good.
I hear it's very similar to Game of Thrones in that sense, where like different cultures feel like different cultures.
Yeah.
And it's not this like Star Wars of like, look, that's just a different looking type of alien, but ultimately they're all the same thing.
Right. It is yes. And also one of the, so like the pen name of the
not
authors,
just about Star Wars. I love Star Wars, not saying that.
Yeah. If anything,
Just to
that's
be
also
clear.
like more a thing in Star Trek, where it's just like white people with ears, white people with another face ridge, like every time they go throughout the galaxy. And it's like, bro, how many iterations of humans are you gonna do in this show? They just keep doing humans over and over again with just different features.
That was probably more because of budget restraints back in like the 60s.
sure.
They couldn't deviate too much, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, even I'm watching Voyager, and Voyager's like 90s into the 2000s, and they keep doing it. They do have some that are not that, and I'm sure they blew their budget up on those. But nah, but
like, all right, we only have the budget for like 2 episodes with a different alien race that aren't white people.
Right.
That's all we got.
Right. They to their credit, they do throw in black people sometimes, so I guess that helps. But it is still just like humans in space, and it's like, come on, man. Like, but yeah,
But
it's also
we're
like
all made in God's image. That's why all these different aliens.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. Oh, I know what I was gonna do. I think I'm going to.
So I have the dumbest reason why I haven't watched The Expanse. It's a really, really dumb reason, and like I cringe saying it.
Okay.
There's a character, and his name is Captain Holden, and having
James Holden.
Having a unique name like Holden, I've never met another Holden before. I don't usually see movies or TV shows with another character named Holden, so like seeing a character named Holden is kind of like a little weird for me. So I just like, there's other things I can watch, and I don't know, it was jarring having like a character with the same name as me. I know it's like incredibly narcissistic of me, but like I know it's dumb. It's a really dumb reason to not watch that show.
To be fair, it's his last name.
But they say it all the time. They're like, Captain Holden, report to them. Like, there it is again.
Yeah, I suppose so.
At least in the first like half. It's a really dumb reason. I need to just get over it and watch it.
It's quite good. Bless you. And yeah, so talking about Game of Thrones, it's 2 authors writing under one pen name, and then they have a fuck ton of consultants, I'm sure. I am running from this because that is bug type. But what was I gonna say? I already forgot. One of the people under the pen name, James S.A. Corey, was like I don't want to say intern, but like one of the main assistants to George R.R. Martin for several years. Daniel Abram. Or Abraham, however you pronounce it. So like, yeah, it makes sense that like, dude is a little influential. For sure. Try catching Pokemon with it. Yep, I will do that.
So Ivory Shinobi says not a fan of Catching the Rye. I take it. Yes, and also because that's literally where I got my name from.
Oh,
my
really?
dad loves the book Catching the Rye, and my mom hated the book but liked the name Holden. So I read the book when I was like 13, and I'm like, oh, I want to know, what do they see in this character to name them after me? And I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you name me after this person? He's a complete shit.
Holden Caulfield sucks.
He really
I know that's like the
does.
point of the book, but like, I don't like reading about characters I don't like. I don't know.
I don't mind that. It just was weirder for me because I like literally was named after him.
Yeah, that's like insulting. It's like, what the fuck, dude? How are you gonna do that to me? That's so fucked up.
It'd be like, yeah, we named you after Don Draper. Like, why would you name me after a complete asshole?
Right,
like
just
that?
a monster of a human being.
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to name you Heisenberg because our favorite show is Breaking Bad.
Wait, so you're saying you don't want to be named Hannibal? There's a really good Hannibal Buress bit where he talks about that. He's like, the only other famous person I share a name with is that general from forever ago and a fucking serial killer.
Not even serial killer, cannibal, like literal cannibal.
Right. Right.
Like serial killer would be preferable over that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I actually met him once.
Hannibal Buress?
Yeah.
He's a funny dude.
He's really funny. I mean, he was extremely brief. He was just outside my work when I was working in Chicago.
Oh, word.
My child Voldemort Vader. That's funny. He'd have a cool nickname though. People would like have to do something with V, like Double V or something like that. He'd get around it.
Voldemort, but here's the thing: Voldemort is like, it being a fantasy character is like, makes it not as bad. I think. Yeah. Oh my god, the only offensive move I have is a psychic move. I did not think this through.
Oh, here's the part too that bugged me about reading Catching the Rye is that, like, looking back in hindsight, Holden Caulfield's character like flunked out of 3 high schools, right? Or like 4 high schools or something like that. I went to 3 different high schools. He was on a fencing team. I was on a fencing team. Like, there's all these like odd connections where I'm like, whoa, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
I'm just not comfortable with this.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
That's not good. Shinobi says naming my child Voldemort Vader. But the thing is, like, fictional characters aren't as bad as like, it's a fantasy character. It's actually kind of fun. I have a friend who is named Lorien, like after like Lothlorien in fucking Lord of the Rings. So that's kind of cool. That's like if you don't know what that is, then it's super niche. He's like, yeah, I've gotten it throughout my whole life, where people are like, well, that's a weird name, and other people are like, whoa, Lord of the Rings.
I feel like the thing though with naming your kid after like a fantasy story like that is how poorly that name is likely to age.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Lorien is like, I mean, it sounds normal-ish, so I guess you're in.
Lorien's not as bad, yeah.
Lorien's not too bad, but like if it's like Voldemort or something, that's like super like deep reference.
Is Voldemort Regera in the room today?
That's right. I can't do that to my kid, dude. Fuck that. That'd be awful. That'd be awful. Shinobi says, at least you haven't said the word phony once, so that's a win.
Yo, yeah, I forgot about that.
That kid like embodies like the most Gen X energy ever. Holden Caulfield does.
Yeah.
It's very like Nirvana, I hate the world, but I still have to work this shitty office job, and I'm not going to do anything about the world to make it better kind of thing. That kind of like Gen X angst. 80s kid angst. 70s, 80s kid angst.
Yeah, what year was that book written? It was like
no idea.
50s, I think?
It's kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was very ahead of its time. It was extremely popular. Because like, I think it kind of hit that kind of underground zeitgeist at the time. It's actually kind of an oxymoron, underground zeitgeist, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel that way about like, I talk about this all the time. Shinobi knows. I talk about Night in the Woods all the time. Night in the Woods did a really good job of capturing. It was only made by 3 people, and it did an amazing job at capturing the like the millennial Gen Z zeitgeist. When you play it, it's like, oh my god, this captures our experience in a game. It's almost like too much because you can play a little bit and it's like, this is a little too real. I need to step away.
It was written in serial form between 1945 and 1946, and then published as a novel in 1951.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, Night in the Woods is way ahead of his time. No, I'm just kidding. I was catching the right.
Yeah. That's weird that it was a serial though. Like.
Yeah.
What?
A lot of really famous stories, I think, came out that way. Like, wasn't War of the Worlds like that too?
Yeah, War of the Worlds was a radio show, I think.
Yeah.
If I am not mistaken. Which, like, there were records of people for War of the Worlds hearing it on the radio, thinking it was real, and freaking out. Which was kind of the point.
Every Shinobi asked, did we ever watch the free documentary Zeitgeist in, like, 2009? I watched all 3 of them. There are 3 of them.
No. I don't know what that is.
It's like a... It's like a... It's a weird documentary. It's like a 9/11 truther documentary, but I like conspiracy theories. I just kind of like watching that kind of stuff.
Oh, Shinobi loves this shit. I forgot that he loves 9/11 conspiracy.
Yeah. I love all the conspiracy, man. It's not even like believing it. It's just like watching it as like entertainment.
Well, yeah, it's a compulsion to know like why it is. Like, I think QAnon is fascinating, as dumb as it is. Like, that people can believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This shit.
Oh, I find like Pizzagate and that kind of stuff. All that stuff's really fascinating. Doesn't mean it's real, but it's just really fascinating.
Well, it's a study of like the human condition to a certain degree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, the funny thing about them is that like they'll do a really good job in those documentaries of like pulling in things that can make you think something. But then if you apply like they'll show a quote, for example, right? Yeah. But they'll show you like just one sentence of the quote. But if you look at like the next sentence they didn't show in the documentary, completely debunk the entire point of the documentary. And the person who made that documentary or the conspiracy theory video or whatever knew that and purposely took it out, whether it was like delusional or whatever. Like, I don't know, like stuff like that is just interesting. But Zeitgeist is like, it combines 9/11 trutherism with this, like, we're in a new millennia and we're coming up to this age of like, God, how did they put it? What did he say? It's been so long since I saw it.
Google
but
it.
It's basically like about like every religion has like their form of Jesus, and it points in history like clockwork. It kind of happens over and over again, and we're coming to that point now where we're going to get close to like our version of Jesus. But they talk about this, but not in like a very like religious sense, like, and therefore you should believe in God. It's just more of like we're coming to a turning point in our history. Yeah, like I should be saying it goes in the history of Christianity, but it's not like fundamentalist Christianity. It's not like they're trying to convert you or anything. It's just about saying that we're coming to this turning point in human society. And the subsequent documentaries kind of go more into how society is going to change, how like money and things like that are going to be changed, how the Federal Reserve is like a completely flawed system that just creates more and more debt, which is going to collapse us eventually.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. And then it kind of gets more, it doesn't like directly say Illuminati, but it kind of touches on that kind of stuff too. Like the people who are in control, that kind of stuff. There's
a lot of that. There's this video by my wife Sadie's really into this YouTuber named Dan Olson. Is that right? She's not listening to me. And he did a video on flat earthers, like diving into what they believe in shit. And
I find that one fascinating. That was so fascinating to me, flat earth.
Yeah. You would love the video that he did. It's a little long form. I think it's like 30-40 minutes YouTube video.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, I have no problem with that. When you get a chance, please send that to me.
Yeah. He lives in Canada, and like flat earthers will use this lake in Canada to prove that, because it's one of the largest lakes in the world, and it like goes along, I forget if it goes along a latitude or longitude line, but apparently you can prove that the world is curved there because it's like part of the horizon disappears, and then flat earthers come up with all this bullshit to like dismiss it. And he basically he says that he started the video project just as a way to like dismiss flat earthers, and then realize that like it's not like facts that will dismiss what they believe. They have to get out of it in a different way. And also like discovers that like a big underlying part of flat eartherism, the more he dived into it, whatever, was that there's a lot of like underlying Christian shit, like you're saying, where it's like, oh, Jesus will save us, and then like a lot of like really like racist like Jewish cabal shit in there as well.
Yeah, it's always, they don't even, a lot of the times they won't even mention Jewish people, but they talk about like the cabal, and then they'll show like, then they'll talk about the Rothschilds. They'll talk about that kind of stuff. It's like, I know what you're saying.
Some people like will dog whistle it like that, or hint a little harder than dog whistle maybe, and then like some people will be like, yeah, it's the Jews, and it's like, dude, you said the quiet part loud. Like, you're not supposed to say that. It's supposed to imply it. You're never supposed to say it. Like, bro.
But yeah, it always circles back to that though. Like every time it goes back to that.
Yeah. It's, hold on, I'm lowering, my mic's a little too hot here. I'm lowering it just a little bit. Anyway, yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
I came across one recently.
Please say it,
and
aquas.
It's like, what?
I said, please say it, aquas. You almost did.
Yeah, I commented. Yeah, I came across one recently, and it was it's long. It's like the guy's still releasing them. The guy is completely fundamentalist religion, super religious. He has other videos where he like breaks down like, you know, Revelation and stuff like that. And it's called Road to Antichrist, and it's like it's like he has 4 parts out now, and they range from like 40 minutes to an hour and a half each. It's insane.
That's a lot.
But like, it's a lot. But I have to have respect for how much work this guy has put into it, because the production values really are actually really good for like the kind of videos that he's making. But it's just like crazy, like theory of like how the people like the Alex Jones, the David Icke, all these people who are calling out the New World Order and trying to stop it, right? Really, that's the Antichrist movement, and that the Antichrist is pulling on this grand false flag that he'll be the one to take it down so that he can then rise above
this guy
and reach this like new enlightening.
Oh wow, it's a grift.
It's a grift, and it's like a conspiracy theory for conspiracy theories. Like, it's amazing.
That's wild. It's like, no, fuck those people. I'm the real one. It's like, fuck the other grifters. Please pay me money.
Exactly. Wow. But I think the funny thing about it to me is like, yeah, I'm sure if like, let's just say that Antichrist is real. Let's just run with that for the sake of argument. That he really is like ushering in a huge change in society. Would he really be operating through David Icke and Alex Jones?
Oh God.
Probably not.
Shinobi asks, quick question: how does that guy who tries to disprove the flat Earth era end up, or flat earthers end up figuring out how to convince them if it wasn't via facts? He basically concludes that these people want to be deluded, and there's not much you can do other than like trying to talk to them from like a human to human perspective. It's almost, it's a very good video. I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna look it up real quick. I just bumped the fuck out of the mic, sorry.
Well, the reason the flat Earth one is interesting to me is, at least just the way that I see it, and I feel like this is kind of the common thread in a lot of these conspiracy theories, is people feeling like they don't have control. So they're offering up explanations as to why they don't have this control. And they end up just coming with these ridiculous justifications. Like, part of the flat Earth theory isn't so much that it's important that the Earth is flat. It's about why it's flat and why we're being lied to about it. And the lie goes back to control. Apparently, according to the flat earthers, if we knew that the world was flat, because of humans' propensity for discovery and wanting to explore, we would constantly be banging on the ice wall surrounding us on the edge of our flat disk to find out what's on the other side. And by convincing everyone that we're on a sphere, then we'll stay productive and keep working. It does, like, I don't understand the logic behind that, because we obviously want to explore space. It doesn't quite hold up. But it ties to control there. Even like the Road to Antichrist one, like the guy's basically talking about how we're not in control of our decisions because these huge figures at the top are controlling things from there. That's why society is the way that it is. It's always about control. Always.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing is that Shinobi was saying this seems uniquely relevant to and potentially useful as an approach to QAnons and trumpets in general. Yeah, I mean, totally. And hold on, let me try to take this goddamn item. Here we go. I linked the video that I was talking about in the chat. It's called In Search of a Flat Earth, and apparently he actually published it on like a bunch of platforms as like a movie to stream for free. So you can watch it on YouTube. I just linked it in chat. It's fucking excellent. I was wrong. It's actually like an hour and 20 minutes, so it's pretty long, but it's really good content. But yeah, to your point about control, that's exactly it. There's this bit of, again, I being my Marxist ass self, it's like, yeah, look, there is a group of people controlling society and controlling what you can or can't do, and it's the capitalist class. But like, these people come up with all this shit to make a grift out of whatever they can to take your intuition and you know, make you believe something else with that. And you know, people's intuition is correct that when you go to work and they say they'll pay you $20 an hour for the work you do, and you think you negotiated a good salary, but you can't come out, you can't help but coming out of that negotiation feeling like you got fucked. You did. Because they're making more money off your labor than you are making off your labor, right? Like, it's just like intuitive, you are being fucked, you have no control or power thing. And the correct answer is yes, the fucking capitalists control society and you do not. But because we don't spread Marxist ideas in this country, they're purposely, you know, held down. That all this grifting bullshit comes up, and then people will fall for that. And yeah, it's not like I don't want to be like these people are fucking idiots. I mean, even though like a lot of the QAnon people are dum-dums, but like
I like to think of it not as so much as that they're idiots. I don't know, I've gotten a lot of pushback on this, but I maintain is I don't really believe even stupid people, because I think people are generally knowledgeable in what they apply themselves to. Right. It's just that people don't apply themselves to challenge themselves. So I feel like it's more of like an issue of people not being applied as opposed to being dumb. These people know a lot about QAnon. They can go on and tell you lots about QAnon, but they're not exploring outside of that to understand why QAnon might not be real. Might not, I mean definitely not real.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like they it's the contextual awareness of like they know that they're being fucked by someone, but then like, you know, some other like minor grifter who probably isn't like a capitalist coming up with QAnon just to make a buck is like grifting off them, and so it's just like compounding the issue. Yeah. The
other thing too is like there is like a going back to the whole control and all that stuff. Like I feel like what it is too is there's a hierarchy to society, and I think that's clear. But it's not that there's like a singular hierarchy where there's like a handful of people at the top. It's really I think in reality it's just more that we have many different types of hierarchies. Yeah. Like one corporate enterprise is one hierarchy, but that competes with another hierarchy, and we just have all these different hierarchies kind of competing against each other. So one hierarchy might be greater than another hierarchy, but it's not that there's a singular hierarchy to everything. It's impossible for any one human to understand how all those different hierarchies play off each other.
Yeah, I think in when looking at, again, using like a Marxist lens, this app is going to run away, so I might as well just run. When using a Marxist lens, Marxism is really good when applied in the like macro, talking about society and like forces within society. And so I would say in the macro, I would disagree with you, but in the micro, I agree with you, where there's like a lot of variable nuances that you need to like pay attention to. Like I can like abstract and say, yep, it's the capitalist class, they run everything. And that's like one of the main power structures in society. But then like there are different
when you say
players.
Capitalist class though, you're talking about many people at the top of different hierarchies.
And there's factions within that and different peoples within those factions and yada yada yada. Yeah. So like yeah, totally. My point is nuance is a thing. I guess.
Yeah. Nuance is a thing, but whenever you're talking about like, and this is just true of any religion, any ideology, anything, is that when you're trying to explain the world, you're inherently going to simplify it to a way that it's not entirely true, but it's mostly true.
Right. I don't know what to do here. Fuck.
Yeah.
keep forgetting that Bonsley knows a fighting type move, and it's fucking up my Aeron. I'm trying not to lose it.
Yeah. I haven't gotten to a point where I accept like the Marxist view on that. I get where they're coming from. It's not that I disagree. It's that I think it's too. I don't know. I think it simplifies too much.
Well, the overview does, but then when you actually engage with Marx, there's like a lot of like micro detail to the thing. And it is talking about, I mean, like, generally speaking, it is like a macro view of society. Because, I mean, like, talking about capitalism versus feudalism versus mercantilism is like a huge.
What's mercantilism?
Mercantilism, like, imagine colonial Europe, where the colonies only were allowed to export directly back to the mother country, raw products for the most part, and certain finished products. And it was meant for the profit of the mother country. It was meant for the profit of Spain or France or Britain or whatever. That's how a good chunk of colonial history, like the economy of Europe and the Americas, existed in colonial history up until the like French Revolution. And like the free market capitalism taking over. Mercantilism is, you can think of it as like a beta for capitalism. It's like, it's like so feudalism and capitalism, kind of like, it's a gray area between the two.
So
economically.
I've heard Richard Wolff talk about this idea that, we were transitioning from feudalism to capitalism. It didn't happen where like suddenly there's a capitalist country and things just became awesome. Like it was this slow transition over time.
Mercantilism is the transition.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's kind of where we are. Like I said, like I'm not on board with, like, I don't know if I'd be on board with the communist country arising. I think that we haven't figured out that yet. That's just kind of how I'm viewing it. But I am open to this idea that once we figure out how to properly send resources around, how to figure out those avenues, how to create systems that can figure out how to ultimately it's about creating the systems to allow for that kind of transfer of resources evenly by need of individuals. Once we can figure that kind of stuff out, I think that the possibility of a communist country is feasible, but I just don't know if we've figured that stuff out yet to actually pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that is democracy, is democratic planning, as opposed to central planning.
It's not just democratic planning, though, because democratic planning can absolutely be at fault. It has to be something more automated, where, like, I guess, like, I don't see how it's possible to... So there's, like, this thought experiment. It's called the knowledge problem, and it's, like, let's say that you are trying to build a train, right? And you need to go through the mountain or around a mountain. You come to a mountain, but you decide if you want to go through it or around it, right? If you go around it, you're going to use more steel.
Right.
But if you go through it, you're going to need more engineers because you need to figure out how to safely build out those tunnels so they're not caving in, right? How do you decide democratically throughout all of society whether or not there are more engineers available or steel available at that time? Or what would be the better long-term strategy for that? Like, how are those things decided? And I don't see how there's a system democratically that could figure that out, because it wouldn't just be in that institution making the train that decides which way to go. It would have to also be a factor to use resources effectively and properly to be more evenly distributed at the world. You'd have to have a system outside of all that too. So, like, we don't work for that train company, but are we going to vote on whether that train company is going to go through or around the mountain? Like, how does that play out in practice? And that's where I'm not, like, getting it.
Well, there's the nitty gritty. So, like, the idea about, like, the end of capitalism creating, like, a post-scarcity society means that, like, conceptually there's, like, a fuck ton of steel to get around that problem if you really need to in society. Oh my god, hold on, Shinobi. Guys, I have a voice too. Shinobi says...
With democracy and, like, ignoring a voice completely.
That's right. Wait, your friend wrote an article about flat Earth or about economics? What? I didn't feel free to share it. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, that did nothing. Hold on, I gotta switch out. What do I want to switch to? There we go. Yeah, so, like... There is, here's the thing, is that, like, democracy's dirty and it's it's often like unorganized and it can be chaotic.
Mhm.
And so like answering that question is hard because there's different forms of democracy. It could be direct democracy, it could be representative, it could be a ton of things. And
Yeah.
I am still like absorbing a lot of material on like Marxist thought right now. So I don't have all the answers.
No,
But
yeah. Well, I think the point I'm kind of getting to is not so much that like therefore communism's debunked. I think it's more like therefore we have to figure these things out before the world would shift to a predominantly a communist world, whereas now we're obviously in a predominantly capitalist world. Like we figured out
Yeah.
those problems with
Well-
capitalism. How do we figure out those problems in a communist economy?
so Shinobi says, I think I need link sharing privileges from the coastal elite. I don't even know how to give that. You could post it in the Discord, and then I could pull it up there. You have sharing privileges there. But talking about like if you're gonna talk about like communism versus capitalism, there is in Marxist thought and in socialist thought in general the idea of our version of mercantilism. So we need a transitionary period. We can't just magically have a moneyless Star Trek space communist society tomorrow.
Yeah.
Our equivalent of mercantilism, of transforming from the previous thing to the next thing, is socialism. Like there's two levels, and like communism's like the higher one, and socialism is the lower one. And socialism looks a lot like social democracy might, but with a few key differences. Like democratizing parts of the economy, having like consumer and worker councils that have, like power and a say in the economy and stuff, and that
Yeah.
will
So
like,
yeah,
be the
I'm not using
transition
term
thing.
Yeah, so basically like figuring out how to democratize specific industries, and I mean industry in like a capitalist sense, but just like a subset of
Right. Production.
organizations or production within society. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a big thing that the organization I'm in is pushing is Alex, Shinobi, you gonna drop that link? I'm waiting. I'll keep playing until you do. Is like a really good document from Socialist Alternative. Oh shit, a shiny drowsy. I am catching it. I am catching this motherfucker. Oh my god. It's pink. It's pink. What does shiny hypno look like? It's pink. Oh, it's also pink. That's actually really fucking cool. Alrighty. Frozen. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, I'm catching this thing. I'm fucking catching this thing. Dropped, he said. Hold on, I gotta focus on catching this shiny first. I totally forgot what I was saying.
No capitalism.
No, you're fine.
Capitalism bad. That's basically my point.
No, you're talking about the transitional version, but I'll let you catch your shiny. Those are very rare. So,
Oh, got it, homies. What the fuck is up?
spoiler alert: I hadn't got there on Twitch yet.
Oh Yee. That's the name. What was I saying? So transition socialism.
Yeah, it's transition. So basically, you're saying that you have to find a transitional system before you get to the full system.
Oh, and also
like what the next step is.
part of that. So there's this idea of transitional demands that actually Trotsky, Leon Trotsky of the Russian Revolution, proposed, and transitional demands is a whole concept that I don't have the brain power to explain right now, but it's basically like this idea of like how do we get the average person from A to B conceptually? Like how do we get society and the average person from where they are now to pushing for this socialist society and being an active part in it, because we need everyone being an active part in it for it to work.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge overgross simplification of transitional demands. But the organization that I'm in, there's a really good article. The one person in elected office we have right now is City Council member Shama Sawant in Seattle, who's done fucking great things with coalition of organizations around her, including ours. There's an interview with her on like Bernie's socialism versus ours, and a key part of that is like what we view as like these transitional demands, like how to transition into the society that we want from this base capital society. And a big part of that is we take the Fortune 500 and make them worker owned, nationalize them, but nationalize them with worker ownership being at least 51%, and stuff like that.
So I've had this. I actually hadn't even thought about this as a transitional element to what you're talking about. But I had this thought a little while ago of, we talk about like the stock market, right? And how the stock market, it's public, investment in things. But really it means that people with a lot of money have more say in companies,
Right.
Because they buy a lot of stock. And we talk about things like universal basic income. Why don't we start doing things instead where we literally give people money to spend on stocks? They're like stock vouchers. That way people do have a greater say in these companies because we're providing them with a means to be able to do that.
Well, because the fundamental system of the stock system is one that is like incompatible with a socialist model. And like, I guess like in this hybrid world where we're trying to like transition, it might, sure, maybe that's a thing to do. I don't necessarily disagree with doing it in the short term.
But wouldn't that give, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's better like for instance, if we take I don't know, name a Fortune 500 company, make it worker owned. That means that the workers literally own all the stocks, right? So there is no longer like it traded on the S&P or whatever the fuck. It is literally owned by the workers, all the stocks at that point. And of course, I'm sure they could like vote to like sell some percentage of them less than 51% publicly and that kind of thing. But like, again, that's more like UBI in and of itself, I think is not a bad idea. He says, Shinobi says, is this anarcho-syndicalism? I used to come from that point of view, but no, this is more just like a traditional Marxist view of society, if anything. The org that I'm in is like straight up Trotskyist. So I don't know, maybe you could call it that. But what the fuck was I saying before I derailed myself? I do that a lot. I don't even fucking remember.
No worries. I think you were saying you have like 5 things going on right now. You're
I know.
fine.
Which is my brain. Welcome. Welcome to my brain.
You were talking about, I was bringing up the idea of basically having the stock market as that mechanism for democratic control.
You were talking about UBI too. Oh wait, I have a poison Pokemon.
Well, yeah, I was saying like rather than giving people $2,000 a month, why not give them $2,000 in stock vouchers that they can use to buy stock? And I guess you'd have to figure out some issues there, like when could they sell the stock? If it's only used for stock, how could they sell the stock? There are things you have to figure out there, but
I mean, at that point, you're basically giving them like
means.
a government invested 401k because they can't really touch it until later, or shouldn't.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, we'd have to figure out that problem because they'd have to be able to sell it at some point or pull out of a company as well.
I mean, that's kind of like the baby bonds idea for black folks as a form of reparations, which I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that one. But like on the stock thing, I am way more down with something like UBI, but even then I have a critique of UBI. My critique of UBI is the same critique as most welfare programs where like, great, you're giving people a floor. That is a good thing. But you are doing nothing to address the power structures in society. Ownership question. The ownership question is central to like genuine leftism of like, who has the power and owns the shit, right? And like,
yeah.
I'm not necessarily against UBI, but I'm not a huge proponent because it doesn't answer that question. And like, we wouldn't need something like UBI if society were more democratically run economically. Like, UBI is there to keep people from falling into poverty and falling through loopholes. Well, guess what? If we could like democratically distribute goods in the economy, then that would make UBI obsolete. We would make sure that people aren't fucking starving, make sure that they have like not just bare minimum to survive, but maybe something a little above that, right? And like just give it to people because they're fucking humans. I think UBI within the current system that we exist in, I guess, isn't a bad thing, but yeah, it doesn't answer that thing. I also want to bring up the article that Shinobi dropped because I feel like I'm ignoring him. Let me share on screen. Which one of these was the right one? Is it gameplay full screen? There we go. The Illuminati are real. We should all join. What is this? How do you know this person, Shinobi? From the perspective of Donald and his paranoia-prone constituents, the deep state, consisting of officials at the Pentagon and the American intelligence community, and in countless other government organizations, constituted a secret body bidding for unelected rule of this country, bent on executing some kind of shadowy globalist agenda. For now, we'll leave aside the anti-Semitic undertones of theories like this and simply ask, is it true? Interesting. So it's like a deep dive into... Oh, this is a weird photo. Yeah, it looks like a deep dive into like, just like QAnon conspiracies and stuff. Says an old friend from LA. Oh my god. If you're on the Twitch feed, you'll see it late, but...
I like that photo of Pepe the Frog walking through this like yellow brick road of destruction, but under rainbows and all that. I like that.
And the pizza box.
The pizza box.
He says he liked to write and think a lot on pop culture and social culture and how it all converges. Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting. This is probably something I should try to do a little talk on in the like politics society section of the stream at some point. So I think this would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Yeah. Hold on, I gotta think about what I'm sending out against this fucking ditto. Okay.
Yeah, I want to read that too. I find that stuff interesting as well.
Yeah, totally. It's one of those things. The flat Earth one that guy does is so good. It's so good because the narrative is like, I'm physically trying to debunk the things, and then he realizes these people don't give a fuck about physical proof.
No.
And it's a good narrative twist.
Well, one of my favorite, like, I guess moments of a flat earther I've seen is a flat earther who wanted to build a rocket to prove that the Earth was really flat. And I'm like, the rocket that you're gonna make, the science or the mathematics, I should say, behind getting that thing out of our atmosphere, literally requires an understanding of the world being flat, because of being spherical, because you have to get outside of the gravitational pull of how basically the gravitational pull of the curvature of the Earth.
Right.
Because it's not flat, it's curved. So you have to account for that. I'm not explaining this well because I don't actually understand the full physics behind it. But in order for it to work, you have to be in a spherical planet. So like it's just like so like perplexing to me. This guy's like, I want to build a rocket, and I know how to build a rocket, but I'm going to do that to prove something that wouldn't be possible. Yeah, you get what I'm saying. It's it's so like it's so backwards. I'm having a hard time explaining it.
Yeah, it's super backwards.
Although I think that they like shut him down though, and they said he couldn't build a rocket, which is probably a good move.
Yeah, you know, it's probably not great to allow some guy to build a rocket trying to prove flat shit. But like, oh god, it's one of those things where once we have space tourism, it'll be like, look, you idiot. But the video by Dan Olson does a really good job of trying to like tackle how we deal with that question, right? Of like people, because people will believe conspiratorial things and even non-conspiratorial things despite like the facts being thrown in their face. And like there's kind of a, I mean, not to get back into like that whole idea of like alternative facts and all that shit, but it kind of, what's funny about the alternative facts thing is that like there are some things that are like immutable facts, and then some things that are facts by way of interpretation, and like those facts by way of interpretation are what people, well, I mean, that's not true with the flat earth. They're literally pushing back on like how the world works, so I guess that's not necessarily true. But like I think it's more of a gateway, like people questioning the harder facts is a gateway to people questioning the like interpreted facts.
Yeah. Well, this actually kind of goes into that. So like you liked a picture on Twitter, and then I actually responded back to you in text message, sent it to you, is the whole like the Black Lives Matter
Right.
like banner, and there was one of it where it says like science is real, and this kind of ties into that for me, where it's like, okay, obviously yes, science is a real thing, but like it's
What does that
so
mean
like,
when you put it
and
on
what
a
does that mean?
sign on your
Yeah,
lawn?
well, it's like because like even science is a debate about facts and how those facts play into a larger system.
Yeah.
Like you might have one study that says something, and you can prove in the context of that study that those facts are correct. But then you have a multitude of other studies that say actually in a different context, those facts you're presenting have a whole new meaning. And then the scientific process is kind of like playing these facts against each other to create, not to create, but to discover the actual context of what's happening. So like you can have individual facts that are completely true, but are given new context based on new information. So that's where it gets like really messy with these conversations. And also why the idea of like saying science is real is kind of an odd statement.
But it's one of those things, the context of what they're trying to say is global warming is real and we should do something about it. And it's like, just say that. Like, just say that.
Yeah.
Why are you doing all this like fucking, like, one, just say that. Two, also, like, these people, there's a level of like, so just for reference, we're talking about, there's this tweet that had a picture that, you know, had all those like platitudes, like, in this home we believe Black Lives Matter, that science is real, yada yada, on a like $2 million home, right?
Why are you doing all this
And,
like fucking, like, one, just say that.
Why am I echoing?
Two, also,
oh god. Okay, I think that was Holden echoing me. But
no, I think Ivory Shinobi just jumped into the Discord chat for a second.
Oh, that's what it was.
I have you on mute.
Okay.
On Twitter, on Twitch, not in Discord. I haven't listened to anything you've been saying in Discord this entire time, but I just predicted my responses or estimated them, and I think it's been pretty spot on so far.
That's right.
It's been a pretty fluid conversation.
I am a savant. That's how I have known what you were gonna say. Nah, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the context is like these people live in a $2 million home. They put up a Black Lives Matter sign, and then that's it. They just put up the sign. That means they did a good now. And it's like, yeah, it's cool that you believe in those things, but to a certain point, it's virtue signaling. Like, you're putting it up so that when like the protests come through, they don't like break you home. You know, kind of like it's effectively what you're doing. And it's like, just because you say Black Lives Matter doesn't mean you're actually doing anything to like help the situation. You're just putting up a sign. Like, good job. Do I need a save? I don't know why I came over here. Or, I mean, heal.
So I have questions about that, because I totally see where you're coming from. Like, I agree. There is absolutely a level of virtue signaling to it, especially if it's in front of like a $2 million home like that, when someone probably has the capacity to do more. But I guess, like, what does that look like? Because someone might not have the means or the time or anything like that to go to a protest and dedicate a day to that, for example. Like, what does that mean to like partake in the change?
I mean, this is potentially a controversial statement, but I still believe in it. Oh, Shinobi says, could I jump on the Discord audio call too in a few minutes? I guess that was him trying to do that. He said I jumped in preemptively. I wasn't prepared. But
Cannonball.
I know. I'm fucking up my audio. Anyway, hot take. If you don't believe in defunding the police, you don't believe Black Lives Matter. I stand by that. I know it's controversial, but so then what does that look like? If you don't advocate for defunding the police, then that sign means nothing. If you don't advocate it in some way, shape, or form, whether that means having conversations with people around you to convince them of the viewpoint, or like actively doing like political organizing, which does take time and not everybody has the time to do. You know, whatever. If you like believe that Black Lives Matter, then you need to be advocating for defunding the police in some way, shape, or form. Or it's empty.
Yeah, that's a hot take. I don't know if I'm fully on board with that, but I see where you're coming from. Because, like, the Black Lives Matter as an organization, the whole point is to fund the police. Yeah. So you can't be on board with the organization without agreeing with what the organization wants to do. So I definitely see where you're coming from there. I don't know if I'm fully on board, like, with the... I guess it depends what you mean by defund the police. But I don't know if I'm fully on board with that.
The current platform we have is to defund the Chicago police budget by 50% and put it towards like the Chicago public schools like it should be and other shit.
Okay, so you're not even talking about having like, you know, defunding the kind of current idea of what a police is and putting it into like social programs that would work in conjunction with police.
Yeah,
You're
I mean,
taking
like,
it away completely.
some people are talking about like police abolition versus like simple defunding in there, and like, I think defunding the police, or let me put it this way: the police abolition, while I agree with it as a concept, I don't think under capitalism you can ever get rid of the police, because let's put it this way: we try to abolish the police under capitalism. Now the capitalists are just going to have private police. What's worse? Private police that you have no control over, or public police that you have some kind of control over?
Yeah, you can't go to a court and challenge a private police in the same way you could with
Right. And so like
the police officer, yeah.
As a Marxist, don't believe that you can abolish the police while still having capitalism, because if you abolish the state police, then there's going to be private police. And I think that's arguably worse. And so it's better to defund the shit out of them. By that I mean take away a lot of their money.
Because you're basically, I feel like what you're kind of saying is that you'd rather have police where there's some sort of democratic approval over it, because you could elect a representative for your local area who has a different view of the police, and that can influence it in a way. Whereas private police, it's like, what are you going to do? Become the CEO of the company?
Well,
to,
yeah,
like, change things.
Police used to be private institutions. They got turned into public institutions in the very recent past. I think in the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s is when like police started becoming a public institution. Before that, most police, in fact, the policing as an institution in this country, like police departments, have direct history to either union busting outfits where they beat the shit out of protest or union people on strike and like let scabs in, and or slave patrols. And what we have is the police system now is a literal direct descendant of that. There's a few police departments throughout the country that are like literally the exact same org as like slave patrols or union patrols, and just with a different name. And like a lot of police abolitionists are like, well, we can like replace that with like a different paradigm. And it's like, I agree that there should be a different paradigm, but like the state as it exists, the capitalist controlled state as it exists, is not going to let you come up with and implement that paradigm. So I think the best we can do within the capitalist system is to take away a lot of their monies and put it towards things that help working people.
But what about enforcement of this? I'm assuming you're not going to agree with this, but like, what about enforcement of laws? And obviously laws can be flawed in huge ways. Like, case in point, slavery was a law. Like, you know, you can have huge problems with laws. But like, I guess I don't, kind of like how I'm not able to like fully grasp what the transition to communism looks like, and that's kind of why I'm not on board with that. I don't see what this transition looks like either. I don't think that a world where we don't have police is necessarily going to work. I just have a very hard time seeing.
The argument isn't against having a like law enforcing peacekeeping force. We absolutely need a peacekeeping force in society, of course. But the argument that the police do that now is absolutely wrong. Most of what they do is like bashing in protesters and shit like that. And then like they do dick all to prevent crime. For instance, like me having been burglarized, they just show up and take notes. They're like clerical. They're basically the state's bullies, and then like clerical, there for clerical reasons when crimes are committed. And that's about it. So they don't even do that now.
The peacekeeping is basically having institutions that create incentives in society where someone wouldn't want to burglarize in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. So like, when it comes to the situation of the burglary, that's exactly right. While I was furious that it happened, and I would say furious at the person for doing it, I'm as someone who, not to toot my own horn, but like as someone who like understands, you know, how society is structured, that person who did it was probably a drug addict, and was a drug addict because their life was really shitty, and they stole my PS4 and my Switch and all that shit to get a quick buck to score some more like coke or whatever.
I mean, it was a problem. You said they stole a Switch.
Yeah,
this guy in jail forever.
That's right.
That's a huge crime. That's the biggest problem he committed.
That's right.
Sorry, go ahead. I had to make a joke.
And
You've
like,
been so heavy lately, I had to get some light in there.
Right. Well, the point being, like, yeah, society created that problem, right? Like, not that people will not like commit petty crimes like that ever if we have a just society, but it'll be way the fuck less. And there's plenty of like correlation between poverty and like similar issues like poverty and like theft and crime in general.
Yeah, I think it's also, I can't remember where I was reading this. It's also like relative poverty, not just poverty.
Yes. It's like income inequality.
Yeah,
is more
like when you're struggling and then you see Jeff Bezos has $160 billion.
Yep.
It's hard to get it out of your head that it's a rigged system against you. So you're more likely to do things because fuck it, why not?
Yeah. And so the leftist argument isn't that we don't need people enforcing laws. It's that like the people enforcing the laws need to have some form of like oversight by the people. Because that's another problem, is that these people are just killing people and then they just get acquitted because the justice system is like part and parcel of the problem.
Yeah.
And they're not like Shinobi says is now okay. Yeah, go for it. As long as you have headphones on.
So I guess
and turn off the Twitch.
I guess my next question would be, how do we know that we're at that point now where we need to start? All right. Wouldn't we need to start investing in the systems to create a more equitable society before we get rid of the enforcement?
So,
or not get rid of, but like to reduce the funding going into the enforcement?
Yeah, the problem is, and this is the problem with like the infighting between anarchists and Marxists. Anarchists think that they can create like their own little communes and whatnot that are separate from capitalist
They're
world.
so ripe for corruption.
And well, even that aside, it's like, oh, you think they're just going to let you exist peacefully? No, they're going to come in and take your shit over. Like the anarchists in Spain tried to like, during the Civil War, do their own little thing and say, we're not part of the Civil War, some of them. And like, still got steamrolled by Franco and the fascists. So like, good luck with that strategy. The fact of the matter is that any meaningful change that takes away power from those who have it under capitalism, aka the capitalist class, is going to be a literal fight. And how that fight plays out is contingent upon them and also contingent upon the movement we build if it's big enough. If the movement's big enough, why am I going back to heal every battle? If the movement's big enough, then we won't need to fire a shot, kind of thing. We can just take shit over. But like, to think that we will not have to forcibly remove them from power and distribute it equally amongst everyone is farcical, because nobody with that amount of power just lies over and lets you take it from them.
Yeah, no.
As much as I'd like that to be the case.
Yeah, no. Even though I don't necessarily agree necessarily with, ideologically where you're coming from, I do agree with the idea that if you're talking about changing the system completely, the system's not going to bend over backwards to let you change it. It's never going to happen that way.
Right. That's why. So if we're talking about again mercantilism to capitalism, the French and American revolutions were not. They were bourgeois capitalist revolutions against feudal mercantilism. Mercantilism got to be, it's about taxes, it's about the feudal system in France, especially the Ancien regime, and they're overthrowing feudalism. It was about, because feudalism wouldn't let them do whatever the fuck they wanted, and wouldn't seize its, control. The feudal system wouldn't seize its control. And so they took it when they got pissed enough to do so.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
Yeah, and this is kind of a segue, but I'm actually just kind of curious what your thoughts on this are. So like, there's this. I'm gonna tangent, but I'm gonna kind of tie it back into what we're talking about. So like, when it comes to the whole idea of like, that wasn't real communism. When they talk about like, the quote unquote communists, but really just authoritarian regimes of the last century.
Sure.
I agree. Like, those aren't really communism, because the ideal version of communism doesn't have authoritarian leaders. It just is so inherently against the idea of communism.
There is nuance there, but go on. Yeah.
But I guess like my concern is when we're talking about revolution like that, and you kind of were talking about, it would have to be violent, otherwise it wouldn't work. How are we certain that the people who are leading that aren't just trying to seek power for themselves?
That's a good question. I mean, the main problem with the USSR was Stalin. Stalin was the little finger of the USSR, to use an analogy, right? Chaos is a ladder.
Yeah.
And he used the chaos of the early Soviet period to seize power, eventually killed all the people. There were plenty of people in the leadership that genuinely wanted to build a, like a democratic socialist society. And once Stalin had enough power, at first he didn't have them killed, but he had them like ostracized. Trotsky was exiled. A lot of people of what they called the left opposition, were shunned. And then later, when he had enough power to come up with the excuses for it, they're foreign spies, he had all the people from the, left opposition fucking murdered. So yeah, how do you guard against that shit? I don't know the answer to that, but that is a problem.
I think that's kind of my big concern. I don't think there's like a huge, communist uprising happening in the country right now. I think there are people who like communism, but I don't think there's like a concern. Like, I don't believe the whole like Black Lives Matter is a communist organization. I don't believe that.
No, and if they were genuinely communists, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But if you have someone like Stalin that's just there to like, yeah, chaos is a ladder, and there are power mongers, and any fresh revolutionary situation is ripe for. I mean, George Washington, if he were a dick, could have, made this like a monarchy again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that was also like anathema to like the point of the revolution, which was to overthrow feudalism. So I don't know. Yeah, like Soviet Union, I used to just be like, at the further left I went politically, I used to just be like, Soviet Union bad and Soviet Union not what I want. And then the more I actually engage with what the Soviet Union did and was, the more I see that there's a gray area.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys the nuance, because that was interesting to me. I hadn't heard that before.
There's a lot of fucking nuance. Obviously, Stalin sucks. There's a lot of shitty things that happened under Stalin. But there's also, like, a lot of things. For instance, like, the living standards in the Soviet Union in the 70s and the 80s were higher for like, the average Russian than it was for the average American. They had, under Stalin, mind you, even under, like, shitty authoritarianism, there is a huge project to house everyone, because they had like hundreds of thousands of people that were unhoused. I think maybe even millions, because they're like peasants, like just poor peasants. And so like they built a metric fuck ton of homes that were like, imagine like nice housing projects. I mean, they're like 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom apartments to house families, but like that's better than not having a fucking home. And they have to make as many as possible, as quickly as possible, while under, like, what we have to keep in mind with the USSR's history is that they were literally being sanctioned by the entire developed world, right? While this was happening. Like, Britain, France, the United States, West Germany, was sanctioning the fuck out of the USSR.
Russia, like, I mean, obviously being sanctioned by countries is obviously a bad thing. I'm not arguing that it was. Yeah, anyway, but I guess like with Russia, they're in a unique position to take better advantage of a situation like that, because they're so huge. They have a greater access to resources just based on landmass.
Sure, but I mean, it still sucks because you can't buy what you need.
But like, yeah, but I guess my point is that like, wouldn't they have been in the best position to overcome those odds?
I think because of landmass, that's probably true to a certain degree. But they were also like. After the revolution, Russia, economically speaking, is like a backwards farming society, right? And the fact that, I mean, I understand that like the setup of the Stalinist economy is not something to praise or emulate, but there is something to be said about the fact that people shit on like poo-poo planned economies for being like not effective. Yeah, defective. And it's like
5 seconds back. I just heard I got another phone call coming in, and
oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
So people yeah, obviously like, Stalinism sucks, and like we don't want to have authoritarianism, but also people use the USSR's history to like poo-poo planned economies, and like even in a shittily managed planned economy under Stalin, and it was shittily managed, the country went from one of the like basket cases of Europe, like feudal as fuck, farming society, had like really shitty attempts. If you look at the history of Russia, really shitty attempts to industrialize. They went from that to like changing the society within 40 years to be a space race society. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Like they went from being one of the most backwards European powers to being one of two superpowers next to the United States, who had decades and decades, centuries actually, to industrialize, right? Like that is an economic miracle in and of itself, not
But
to
didn't it
excuse what
ultimately-
Stalin did.
Yeah, but didn't it ultimately fail though?
It ultimately failed in part because of the enormous sanctions that were put upon the Soviet Union. Star Wars, they started spending a bunch of money. Remember when Reagan did Star Wars and like lied about
Yeah.
having a moon base? They were like, fuck, we got to catch up. And so they wasted a ton of money on that shit. And it's also like a lot of mismanagement on the part of Gorbachev, actually, that made it collapse more than the foundations of the thing. And also like part of those foundations are, what Stalin did, of course. Like this like ossified bureaucracy that becomes in and of itself anathema to change, which is like textbook Stalinism in leftist circles now, versus like actual democracy.
Yeah, so it seems like then that like the lesson that people following the communist ideology have taken is that the central planning aspect isn't effective. Is that kind of been the takeaway?
Well, it's not even that central planning is ineffective. It's that like central planning with no democratic oversight. And it's not even that it's ineffective, because it was plenty effective at like competing with the United States in terms of like military and space race and stuff like that. And like also, again, while politically repressive, they also did provide a lot economically for their people. So again, there's nuance there. Like, I wouldn't say that it didn't work, but I would say that like the aspects of it that were shitty were because of lack of democracy.
Wait, can I just jump in real quick?
You're not allowed. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I just, because there's a lot of things that I want to ask about, but I want to start by just asking specifically about like what successful examples of communism have you seen, and what are the drawbacks of them in current like examples,
Well,
if there are any.
If I'm gonna do the actually, like so like there has never been communism, right? What we're talking about is so earlier I brought up the idea within Marxism that like before you get to like a moneyless Star Trek space age society, that communism, like Star Trek communism, you need to have the lower form socialism, which is kind of like, mercantilism is to capitalism as socialism is to communism, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep. So
the Soviet Union was trying to
socialist
build
countries.
Yeah.
Right,
Socialist
go on.
countries, which ones have done well? I mean, I would say like, again, there's nuance here. Like, the USSR did a really good job of like uplifting the poor in their society. If you ask a lot of people who lived through the Soviet Union, they were like, yeah, like Russia now sucks. Like, it's really hard to survive. Rents in Moscow are some of the highest rents in the world. I actually think it is the like one of the worst places for rent in the world, and it's skyrocketing. And there's a lot of issues that the Soviet Union helped to like hedge against, despite all their like fuck ups and crimes.
Right.
So there's not been like an example of socialism, but I think like the best examples would be, and Marx points this out because it happened like a few years before he died, the Paris Commune in 1871 is a really big one. And it's a really big focal point for leftists, anarchists, and Marxists alike. The Paris Commune.
What was the scale of that?
I mean, it's literally just Paris for a month, and then the French government came in and fucking crushed them and murdered them.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
that's one of the things that I was like, whenever you try to implement a new government style, or just like type of rule, and like when you think about scale, things start to deteriorate because you have to deal with so many people at the same time. And yes, communes work at smaller scales, and not obviously not saying commune is what you were saying, but like Paris is a big place, but it was much smaller then. And like when you try to ramp up, a lot of things become much more difficult to manage. And I was also thinking about like China, and how China really did successfully bring a lot of people out of poverty, especially in the last 70 years, as like the move from the countryside to the city centers. Like there are very, very few people that are truly starving anymore, whereas there was a huge famine, and there's a very difficult time for a very long time.
Well, and I have my critiques of Maoism. I think Maoism sucks, but that's not to take
they
away
all-
from what like the Chinese government has done. as much as
Yeah,
they
well,
suck too.
Of course,
Yeah,
well,
China's
I
an
think-
odd example of communism too, because like I feel like a lot of the reason for their growth is they privatized. They had a private. They allowed private businesses into China to operate in like the '90s, and then now, rather than companies giving all their money to the Chinese government, aren't they like keeping a profit for themselves and then giving a portion of it, basically a tax, to the Chinese government? And that profit incentive is when they started to grow. It seems like an odd example.
China
of
is state.
communism.
It's state capitalism. It's not communism.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of
Right.
what I'm saying. It's not an example of communism.
Socialism is when workers have control of the economy. That's what that means. And so China never was that. There's always been this, and it's like Maoism is this like abstraction of Stalinist thought, where like because they like implicitly have the will of the people in mind, that means that they have the mandate. And it's like, no, implicit, having implicit mandate is not a real thing. Like, you just sound like divine right monarchs at that point. That's not how that works.
right. But like every example of a large scale communist attempt is going to have their own hybridization, right, take place. Because like there's,
I would argue against that.
I mean-
I would say the two. Let's put it this way: what we advocate for in Marxism isn't necessarily like. So the state model, the way that the government is organized, is called a workers' state, right? That's like the idea, the name of the idea. And so what a worker state means is really just workers have control of the economy and the government, as opposed to, in a capitalist state, the capitalists have control of the economy and the government. And the only two worker states that have ever existed were the Paris Commune and the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union had its issues, but those issues were really like post-Stalin taking over. Not that there weren't some smaller issues before that, but like the issues were when Stalin took over. But for like a good amount of time there, before Stalin took over power, there was like huge campaigns to give women political rights and involvement in politics before literally any other country on earth. Like, the Soviet Union had the right to vote for women like super fucking early, and then also more women in positions of power in the government than any other government in the world. And so there's like a lot of little achievements like that get buried because we live in a country that it benefits to bury the good things that happened.
What do you mean by women's involvement in politics? Do you mean like just like voting, like women's right to vote, or
Not just
like
that. No, like they literally held positions of power.
Okay.
And that ended, fun fact, like that trend, while like there was still a lot of women involved, it was less so with Stalin taking over power. I mean, Stalinism is inherently a conservative ideology. I don't know what to do here. Yes, I do. But yeah, I don't know. So like the Paris Commune, the reason the Paris Commune failed wasn't because it couldn't like manage all those people and their expectations and stuff. It failed because the like government that was elected by the people was made up of anarchists and like more quote unquote militant socialists. And the militant socialists were like, hey, we need to strike on Versailles now, where the provisional government is, and we'll win. And we'll do this across the country. And the anarchists were like, no, man, we need to let each city rise up, and like we'll worry about Paris, and the Versailles government will let us live in peace. And so because of that political division, no action was taken. And the Versailles government was given months to organize an army, send it into Paris, and slaughter everyone who was involved.
Interesting.
With the National Guard that they had, the National Guard's always like the nexus of revolution in Paris for some reason. The National Guard became like the army of the Paris Commune. They could have marched on Versailles, taken Versailles, and like in the French Revolution, declared a government, and that would have ended that there. But they didn't. So like, they were dealing with, and this is after, by the way, the Franco-Prussian War. This is the end of the Franco-Prussian War. This happens. Paris was under siege during the Franco-Prussian War for like a little over a year. People were literally eating rats, and like the city had like no supplies. As soon as the war ended, Prussia brings in a few supplies for the people. This little coup happens, and instead of the rich only eating, everyone else eats, and they're actually really like they share the supplies and shit really effectively across everyone, so that nobody's starving for several months, and that people are actually doing well and involved in politics, voting, speaking up their mind at the assembly on how shit should run. But ultimately, that argument, the anarchists won because they were like, no, people will rise in the city, and that was fucking stupid, and that's why it died.
So you're saying that they should have
Struck.
asserted their power, like physically.
It underscores my point that like there is no anarchists have this idea that like, oh yeah, if we're gonna bring in socialism or communism, the way we'll do it is like coexisting next to capitalism and eventually just like subsuming it peacefully. And it's like, that's not how anything works. That they're not going to just roll over and let you do that.
Well, it's this idea that hierarchies like need to be flattened, and you can't do that. It's like impossible.
Yeah, well, and they also think that like people need to like come up, which like I empathize with the anarchist critique of power. I actually think the anarchist critique of power is a really good one. And hierarchy and stuff, and it's good to keep in mind. The anarchist critique of hierarchy stems from the anarchist critique of power, actually, and so the anarchist critique of power is a good one. That being said, the anarchist like solution to the problem of like you got to let people just come up, like just rise up on their own everywhere instead of like trying to stimulate a movement and letting the movement gain traction and feeding the movement. Is basically self-defeatist.
It's like the parent who lets their kid do whatever they want because they'll just figure it out, and that's how they're going to learn.
Right. It's like, no, you have to guide the kid to a certain degree. I mean, like, it's like, yes, of course, the like people should have a say in like how the movement, but like the movement isn't just going to like, rise up everywhere simultaneously. You have to kind of show some fucking leadership.
Well, I think that's why the representative democracy model is inherently better than a full democracy where there's no one in positions of power. It's just we all vote on ideas and policies.
Well, I think like we could transition to doing some of that to a certain degree. By that I mean, but imagine we have a society where like voting is a lot easier, and the way that we can do stuff like that is like they could ask for like a formal. God damn it! I walked into daycare. A formal. For instance, there's like some sort of controversial thing coming up for vote. And whatever our socialist equivalent of the legislator is like, okay, the people, we want you to weigh in. This is not necessarily a binding vote, but we want you to weigh in on this. And we could very easily create encrypted, secure apps for voting where everyone with a smartphone can vote. And, you use like some sort of like, I don't know, your social security or whatever the fuck, and you vote on your phone, and then that's a way that they can like be like, okay, we've got a pulse on the people, what the people want, kind of thing. Like, you could easily do shit like that, even within the current system, but the current system is like anathema to even doing that.
Wait, sorry. Yes, I agree, but I lost you where the train of thought was heading.
I mean, it's a lot to take in, and it's kind of like it can like derail your train of thought.
Yeah, no, oh shit, I was just gonna say something specific.
Specific, go.
Well, yeah, often my critique around like communist application is like the liberties that are removed when like.
Well, yeah, and none of that should happen. None of that should ever happen. Like,
yeah, but like, what is it a side effect of? Like, why is it happening? It's because of the hierarchies that naturally evolve because people want some regulation, so they're looking for some kind of leadership, and then therefore they have to stifle dissent to some capacity because, like, okay, so when you were talking about, okay, if they should just take power, and then there was a divergence between the anarchists and the other side, or they both have the same goal, but their solutions were different in application. And so like they ultimately dissolved power or they didn't take power because they couldn't agree on the way to achieve their goal. And I think that's like in a lot of ways,
that is the left in a nutshell.
Right, like, but that, in general, though, that's like the human history, right? Like, we have a lot of the same values. Like, love and like loyalty and trust, and like the application of those values is intrinsically a very difficult thing to agree on because of our life histories or our personal stories, what we go through and what we believe, and our genetics. And like, even if you were born in the same household, you might have very different opinions. Like even you and your family, right? You grew up and you had a very different life path than a lot of your family members. And like, what's to say that your version of that, like you both want the best for each other, but you staunchly disagree on how to achieve it. And like, I think one of the fundamental issues is that like humans are so flawed and we have such a flawed understanding of all the information that is presented to us, and we're so biased deeply by everything that happens that it makes it difficult to make decisions based on our values because of our biases, for the greater good in general.
And to build off that too, like thinking about our current situation in America right now, where we are so divided, I don't see how that division could be resolved in a system like that's being proposed or being idealized.
Yeah, I mean, so the way, I mean, this ties into like the way you stem off fascism. Go ahead.
Well, like it's the values on the ideological spectrum in our country right now. The values are just so inherently different across the board. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Oh, like, what are the okay? So like, let's think about that for a second. Are the values that different? Like, what are they, and why are they that different?
I don't think they necessarily are. I think it's like the way that I think it's more just like people are consuming different like ideas and propaganda around those values, but the values are the same. We value democracy, we value civil liberties, we value people like having a chance to do well, right?
Free speech,
I shouldn't have used the term value. I think that was a poor choice of words on my part. I like take like an issue like immigration, for example, right? Like both sides are talking about the idea of immigration, but the proposals on both sides
accomplish different shit. We have a wall, or we have
different
like
shit.
citizen,
right?
Yeah.
It's there's such a huge discrepancy. How does that even play out? Whereas in a representative democracy situation, you can at least get 100 people in a room to discuss it, as opposed to 160 million people who actually vote every election.
So I take umbrage with a little bit of the framing. There's only so much pushback on framing I can do without sounding like a dick, but
no, push back. It's just about challenging ideas. They're totally good. Don't worry.
Because I don't want to be like, actually, but like just constantly, because that's like a socialist fucking stereotype. But so I would push back a little bit on the fact that like when we're talking about having like in socialism like a worker democracy, like the working people controlling things and not like the ruling elite. I think when we're talking about the average working class person, and when I say that I don't mean like poor people, I mean like everyone from the poor all the way up to the middle class. Like I mean people who don't own shit. I mean it in the Marxist way. The working class generally, we do have like a lot of the same like values that we uphold. Like if you look at, for instance, maybe this is a terrible example, but I'm going to use it anyway. If you look at the instance of the burning of the police precinct in Minneapolis, a majority of people supported that across both like right and left ideological spectrum, because it's like, the people can burn down government buildings if there is an injustice done unto them. That and like we have shit like that, like and Holden, you might be familiar with this because Richard Wolff says shit like this all the time, but the French Revolution and the American Revolutions, they hold up liberté, égalité, and fraternité, liberty, equality, and brotherhood as like. And we are very much taught that, and we all do believe that to a certain degree, even Marxists. And it's like Marxists are like, yes, but keep going is our thing.
Yeah, what else?
Yeah, it's like, yes, and you are not doing that. So please keep applying it, right? And it's like people do have those values. And my answer to like how the communist, quote unquote, communist countries got fucked up is, I mean, there are people like Stalin like I said earlier, Stalin was the little finger of the Russian Revolution, and
Yeah.
chaos was a ladder. And
Right.
not to belittle the accomplishments of the Cuban Revolution, but I would say something similar about Castro too, despite them also achieving good things for the Cuban people as well. And it's a mixed bag. But yeah,
So
it's,
if like a communist country has historically and consistently left a vacuum of chaos for a single person, often to take charge and corrupt the system internally, like, is that a function of the communist system? Is that a function of chaos when there's a transition of power? What is it a function of exactly?
I think it's a function of just chaos and transition of power. But it's
I
also
think it's more of a human nature thing as opposed to an economic system under.
I agree
on top
with
of human
that.
nature.
I agree. I
I
think
would
it is
push
a human
back
thing.
on that, and that like the human nature to like be power mongers, of course, but then like you can prevent that, and the way you prevent that is having like really like a strong movement that would say, no, fuck you, you're not taking power, and rising, you know, like empowering the people more directly.
Why didn't it? Why hasn't it? Yeah, in the past, why hasn't the system of government that was supposed to maintain lack of hierarchy always failed to stop the people from rising to the top and
I think
taking
there's
control?
like
Singular.
so many variables that it's hard to answer.
Yeah, okay.
There's a lot of variables to that. Like the human nature, I used to ascribe to what y'all are saying on the human nature front, and I no longer do, because I think human nature arguments are really hard to like. I mean, like human nature is a subjective thing. There's only a few things we can say are definitely human nature. Not dying is human nature. There's one thing. There's one thing that even like Marx said was, Marx basically asserts there's only one thing that is truly human nature, because he was, you know, very much like an anthropologist and a history, or like a student of cultures. And Marx's one assertion of the one thing that is truly human nature is that we are like creators, and that we are in German, this is going to get real fucking academic here. In German, he called it the species essence, or like Gattungsessence, or some shit like that. Is to like create things and to have some sort of like attachment and pride in the things that we create.
Wow.
But I don't even know if I like buy that assertion. I mean, I agree with it to a certain degree, but I don't know if I agree with it as like a universal human truth. Maybe.
But I
do
understand your
as a
hesitance to just ascribe anything intrinsic to be intrinsically human. Like
No, because everything
that's
is like dependent on
dangerous
culture.
slope.
Like,
So all right, I agree that human nature can be extremely subjective because, you know, people have different values, that kind of stuff. But I do feel like when we're talking about, like, you're talking about power mongering, but I feel like
yeah, that is inherent to maybe humans. I could probably agree with that.
Yeah, because it's like, it's kind of goes back to the whole conspiracy theory thing we were talking about. Like, it's all about control. I think, and the control, I think, is really an extension of people just wanting to have agency over their own lives.
Yeah, of course.
And that can be extremely harmless. But when you start working your way up that hierarchy, your agency now extends to the agency of other people.
Yeah.
And that's where it can get problematic.
That is what you just said, the power and agency of other people. That is literally the anarchist critique of power. That right there is power means you have the ability to fuck with someone else's agency. Therefore, and like half of all things when you control someone's agency is shit that they don't want, just like very grossly generalizing. Therefore, power is bad.
Yeah, but I don't think that power is necessarily bad. Because it can be used for good. Obviously, human history has a lot of contradictory points to that.
Right. That's where I agree with you.
I feel like it's one of those things where it's like a double-edged sword. Like, you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be a system that gets away from it. And I feel like if a system is truly going to resolve a lot of the issues that we have, I think at the same time we have to acknowledge that these issues aren't really going to change necessarily with changing economic systems. It's just changing the mechanism for how that implements itself into society. So like in feudalism, there were people who had more power than others. In capitalism, there were people who had more power than others. And in communism, there's going to be people who have more power than others. It doesn't really get solved. It just changes the mechanism for how it gets implemented within society. And it's kind of, I feel like the impetus is on Marxist ideology to demonstrate why those mechanisms in Marxism or socialism or communism or whatever form it's going to end up taking on are better than the implementations we have now.
Right.
Like checks and balances, like the democratic system is very intentionally trying to do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and there is an argument against checks and balances, though, from the left, that checks and balances only gets applied, or often gets applied, when it is that we, like mass movements, want to create some, overarching reform or change to the system. That's when, like, for instance, people argued that the check and balance that is the Electoral College, people argue that its existence is literally to prevent some crazy nut job from becoming president. That totally worked. That really worked out well.
Yeah. Right.
What are you talking about? Donald Trump is our greatest president ever.
Yeah,
What are you talking about?
But like, yeah, they're often in like basically those the structure of, this is where reading Lenin helps a little bit. The structure of what we would call bourgeois democracy, the checks and balances, the three branches of government, is really there to mediate mostly battles between the working class, us, the people, and the ruling class, and more often than not in the favor of the ruling class, unless there are like a fuck ton of regular working people that are pissed threatening the system, like in the 40s and the 60s. I'm having a tough time like verbalizing the point I'm trying to make, but it's like these structures were built to serve
The ruling class.
bourgeois ends. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. But let's say, like overnight, we just decided, okay, we're going to just replace the current system with the system that you're discussing. I'm assuming it's a Marxist system. How would you describe it, just so I know the label to use?
Worker state is probably the way
Okay.
people would say, like
A worker state.
Yeah.
And so let's say the worker state you postulate is now in control of the government, both like socially and legislatively, right? They're voting on everything. They are
Right.
in most of the. So the people, they are the workers. They have no training in or background in or time spent with government legislation, ruling a large population, running systems. So some of them do, some of them will, because they are part of the old system and they know how to. And it wasn't a flat system, so they're aware of the hierarchies and they know how to use that system. But
Right.
a lot of them don't. They're just plumbers or they're just graphic designers, and they're aware of their niche and they're aware of how they're benefiting or not benefiting from the current system, the old system.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to interact with this new system where they have a ton more power because they haven't spent the time with it. So I think my argument ultimately is like the reason a lot of societies have kind of coalesced into a democratic type hybrid system is because people get better at dealing with large groups of people when you spend time understanding what those implications are, and like you need to spend the time studying and understanding like the legislative implications of your decisions and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah. The
don't
Marxist
necessarily-
assertion isn't like anti-representational democracy. It's more about like, so like for instance, the Paris Commune, what the Paris Commune did and the Soviet Union did in the beginning, before a certain someone, that I keep naming way too much.
No, it's good. It's good.
So the basic ideas of, and there's been people, like a lot of talk on the Marxist left, I mean even just the left in general, about like what a worker state should look like now, 100 years later. But the Paris Commune and the USSR, in its beginning at least, showed us some core things. And these are things that, like, if we could win this as a reform on the current system, would be huge, right? But one of the big ones is that people, elected officials, can be immediately recalled if the constituency votes to do so.
Got it. There's no term
Like an
or term
impeachment,
minimum.
basically.
Yeah, it would be like, okay, X amount of people have to move to try to recall the candidate, and then there's a recall vote, and they're recalled, and we got to vote
Isn't
someone
this
back
an
in.
election though?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, look, socialism revolves around elections because basically, Marxism is just trying to apply democracy to the economy. And that's what the worker
If you're-
state is supposed to be.
So you're basically saying like, all right, so like right now in the current, because we're not talking about like government, we're not talking about like a senator or a house member. Really talking like if I want a promotion at work, if I want to become from a junior developer to a senior developer, or something like that.
Oh, I'm talking about the
or
government right now.
manager.
I'm not talking about
Okay.
workplaces.
Okay, well then that's the sort of system right now, isn't it?
No, we can't recall. I can't go and recall Jan Schakowsky from the United States House of Representatives right now.
But you're saying that
But that's-
you go on. Sorry.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's why it's like an election. You do have that opportunity. There's the impeachment option. We can put pressure to impeach. We can also
Yeah, but impeachment is
Just
not the
vote
same
her
thing
out.
as like the people. Yeah, I can only vote her out every 2 years, right? That is
And
one of the
I
key
guess
ways they like hedge themselves in there.
And I guess a clarifying question as well. When you're saying like, so let's say take Mitch McConnell for example, right? Does his state get the option of impeaching or voting
Your
him
constituents, it's your
out? Or
constituents.
the entire country votes him out?
Your constituents.
Oh, just your constituents. Okay.
Yeah, of course. It's the people that are that you represent, right? They get the
Okay.
choice on whether or not to vote you in or out.
I just want to know what the scale of it was.
So here, let me. I had the criteria somewhere saved. By the way, if y'all want to engage with these points, I have on the Twitch channel a little link that's my YouTube theory playlist that actually explains all of these questions that you're asking. And there's one that's specifically about government form. Here, I'll fucking pull it up. Actually,
No, I actually.
You've
just found it.
seen
Right-
every one of these
right below
93 videos?
yes.
Holy shit.
Yes, of course. Because I watched them and I'm like, that would be good for the playlist. It's going in. But I've also watched them over the course of like 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, I
Got
believe it. I'm on YouTube YouTube is such a great resource, actually.
yeah, and that's why I'm trying to like make a stockpile of like both Marxist, mostly Marxist, but some anarchist thought in there as well, just to like get it in people's heads and wrap their head around it. There's one video in there that's like, what does a socialist state look like, or something. Let me see if I can
That
find
would
it
be.
because it
yeah,
breaks
I've
this
seen
down.
one of these, sir. I've seen the difference between socialism, communism, Marxism. I've seen that one before. I've seen a lot of the Conscious Boys videos.
Daniel, you had started by saying like, if we applied XYZ changes overnight to the current system, a large amount of positive change would happen.
Yes,
So
that
the
is
first one was ability to recall governmental people at will.
Mhm.
So what else? Is that what you're looking at right now?
I was looking at the YouTube video just to share it, but I wish I could find it off the top of my head. I could also just look at the playlist and pull it up because the video has like the main points in long form. But the first point is recall, can be recalled by majority vote, by constituency. The second point is the people in government should make no more than the common person's wage. Now that can be interpreted as the people in the government shouldn't make more than minimum wage, or the literal median number, not mean.
So just
because
pay everyone
outliers.
more.
It'd be paying the people who are ruling over us less.
Or yes, or pay everyone else more. Right.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
Sorry, yes, I
yeah.
misunderstood what you said. Yes.
That's how Japan works currently. Like CEOs cannot make more than X% of the lowest earning employee of their company.
Yeah. The Cuban Constitution, which all these awesome rules in it didn't get enforced, but that was one of them as well. Or at least it's the other way around, where teachers stipulated in the Constitution, teachers had to get like paid X% of like GDP or some shit like that.
Right. God, that makes. I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Fuck ton of sense, because like these people aren't beholden to us when they. I mean, like for instance, like impeaching Trump and like successfully getting him out would have been good because the man gets a stipend of 200 and something thousand a year just from being president. That's one of the laws that we
It's
have in this country.
ludicrous. So absolutely, yeah, you're right. That's absolutely insane. I mean, that's a big one. Yeah.
I blank on there's one or two other major points that were basically pioneered by the Paris Commune and the USSR that I'm forgetting. But those are the first two off the bat.
So
Fuck. I'm trying to remember the other ones.
can I bring us back to something really quickly? Because I had a few more follow-up
Sure.
questions on the whole, I guess it's still kind of related to what we're talking about. So, all right, going back to the whole Mitch McConnell example, we want to get him out, right? why couldn't we? I guess like why does that have to be a fundamental change? Why can't that just be
It should be
an
with
earmark onto what we currently
social-
have?
I think that's what I think you're saying, that we could do that and it would be great.
I'm saying that we, in theory, could do that, but I don't think that the ruling class would let us do all these things.
But you are saying that like it's possible in the current system. It's just not likely.
If we exactly, if we pass
But
these
what-
things, then it would be like reimagining our country to a certain degree. Here's the YouTube link. Bada boom.
So okay, so here's I guess this is where I want to go with this. So like we can change it now, but it's gonna be harder because you have this working class that has control over the capital, and therefore they have the power. That's kind of what you were saying, right?
Sure.
Okay. Wouldn't we have just a system of social capital, which has its own power and influences, and that might be harder to take over if it's just a social capital.
Yeah, I mean,
You're
social
basically talking
capital.
about popularity concepts at that time.
That's a
that-
whole other area that I don't really like. It's hard for me to engage with because I don't really have any I don't know, framework by which to analyze it.
Mhm.
But I mean, sure. But then what problems does that create? Well, let's put it this way: define social capital, and then what problems does that create in your mind?
So yeah, so there are people, just ideologically speaking, who are going to have more influence in society than other people who have different ideas, right? Because at that point, we're not talking about a financial capital exerting power. At that point, we're talking about ideas permeating, and I think the ideas permeating is good, obviously. But
so you don't mean social
there has not
capital in the celebrity sense, because some people use it in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of using it in that sense, because I guess what I'm building towards is that person's. Yeah, actually, this is kind of what I'm building towards, because, and I don't mean celebrity like Kim Kardashian, Elon Musk is a celebrity,
Yeah,
or Noam
course.
Chomsky is a celebrity. There's different forms of celebrity.
Right.
Of
course.
But there really hasn't been a point in human history where the general consensus across all people is the most factually correct thing. Actually, one of the big problems with societies. So running off of that social capital, that actually kind of makes it, I think, harder to come to better conclusions. Because if one person who is, let's just say hypothetically, very wrong on subject X, right? But
Right.
they have the most social capital, therefore they have the most influence, doesn't that hurt the democratic process at that point if there's no other factors playing against it? Because right now, social capital is already a factor to an extent.
Of course.
So is financial
Definitely.
capital. We have all these, it goes back to the whole, we have different types of hierarchies playing against each other. And I feel like this is eliminating one form of hierarchy, which gives stronger weight to that social capital, which could have a downturn if the social capital at a time is just inherently wrong. Which again, in human history has been pretty common.
Yeah, I mean, for the social capital question, I think there's a really good philosophy tube video about Brexit and democracy.
It's a good example of what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, and basically the conclusion he arrives at is that that happens, and the only way to battle that is to enshrine freedom of speech. And it's not just freedom of speech, because it's also a question of what group of people has more power than the other. Because if, say, white supremacists or the capitalists or whoever have more power, as capitalists do with money, they control the messaging and the social capital of the country, which is a big problem.
But we're talking about a moneyless society in this hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm with it there. My point is that God, Pokemon and talking about this at the same time is mind racking. This is
Nuzlocke Pokemon 2.
I
It's
know.
not even Pokemon.
I'm not trying to have my Pokemon die while talking about this.
You've been doing well. You've been doing well, though. You've been doing well.
I got close a couple times. I was like, fuck. But now we're good. But so to answer your question, yeah, I mean, the best way to go about things is to equally distribute power as much as possible, aka democracy. And to deal with social capital, it's the same thing. You make sure everyone has an equal amount of power outside of social capital, and then the way you can do away with people who have prestige or whatever other things that contribute to social capital in a moneyless, classless society, you do away with shitty people spreading their shit by having freedom of speech enshrined. And like, it's kind of weird of me to make almost like a marketplace of ideas argument, but like, it is kind of that, but in the sense.
Great point, Dave Rubin.
Yeah, but my point is
I'm
that
kidding,
like,
I'm kidding. I'm just being funny. You're good.
well, no, but you're right in the sense of like, like that.
Dave
It's
Rubin
funny.
doesn't actually believe that though. I'm just making a joke.
Exactly. And my point is that like, you know, the people who believe in like liberal democracy, we'll call it, or bourgeois democracy, they think, or at least like trick themselves into thinking, or know that they're lying and just espouse it anyway. They think that what they believe in is equality of opportunity, right? And then they think that what Marxists want is equality of outcome. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. Marxists are aware that equality of outcome is impossible, but we want equality. We want true equality of opportunity for everyone. And that, like, that's the whole point, is that like, if you had a moneyless, classless society, yeah, there might be like demagogues or like people with charisma that build social capital to a certain degree. But the best way to remedy that is having a society that power is distributed equally amongst everyone, and that everyone has the chance to, like we see on YouTube, like all these really great like debunking videos and stuff like that. Like we're starting to see stuff like that now, where like mainstream media blows, and we're starting to see like independent media doing really good shit. And like that's a big part of like freedom of speech and empowering independent media. And the way we empower independent media is by, you know, like swinging left on a lot of things.
What if, but like, so if that's the case, then what's to stop? So what's your whole take on the current situation regarding like misinformation and the dissemination of that at large?
Yeah, I mean,
scales?
that gets back to what we were talking about earlier with that guy's video on flat earthers, and how like it wasn't that facts, you know, are what get these people to not believe their shit. It's like it's deeper than that, or like that might be part of it, but it's more than that.
Well,
and that's a good question.
Does the culture itself, or does technology itself have any obligation to do what it's currently starting doing? Not censoring, but like tagging or labeling or flagging content that has potential, you know, misinformation. Like what is that is kind of like actually a lot of what the article that I sent you goes into, and not like optimizing for clicks anymore, which is what the YouTube algorithm does, which is what a lot of algorithms do. But instead, you know, trying to, I don't know, like it's kind of asking that question openly and finding a different solution, because right now it kind of radicalizes thinkers or people in general, instead of like creating a more I don't know, heterogeneous and more interesting culture. I don't know. It just pushes people to the sides.
Reword what you're asking, because I'm not sure.
What's our obligation morally to like control free speech? Because you want to enshrine it, right? I like obviously the idea of enshrining free speech as a value, but to what extent? And to what extent should we be censoring or curbing free speech?
I think the only extent to which we should be censoring and curbing free speech is I generally think that the idea of someone screaming fire in a theater kind of thing.
Okay.
The inciting violence, creating chaos,
right?
Purposefully.
Inciting violence, I think, is probably one of the better standards and like only legitimate standards that we have. And to that end, if we study the history of fascism, despite not believing in freedom of speech, will often say that it does and or take advantage of freedom of speech to spread its ideas under the guise of we're just having a talk in the marketplace of ideas, and what they're doing is recruiting. When they spread dog whistles that are, what's a good example of like them recruiting using, when they get like, for instance, when Richard Spencer was featured in the New York Times as like just some whimsical guy in a top hat who believes in an ethno-state, like they're like, like
What?
Yeah. There was an article in like 2015. I forget when the fuck it was. The New York Times profiled Richard Spencer is like, look at this fedora wearing, isn't he cute? And
He
basically
believes in
like,
an ethno state.
yeah, I mean like Richard Spencer is.
He coined the term alt-right. He's kind of like the head of the alt-right. Or
He's-
the
Oh,
originator
no.
of the
He's the
current
guy that got
alt-right
punched
movement,
by
yeah.
that Antifa guy.
But he got a platform by the New York Times to speak
Yeah.
about what he
Yeah.
believes in.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's so fucking heinous. He's so gross. He literally thinks that African Americans should be happy about being slaves because it's better to be born here than it would have been to be born in Africa. It's like
Right.
literally something he says. Like he's
This is something-
he's
He believes this
unbelievably
too.
racist. Yeah,
Like-
I mean, I'm assuming he believes this. I tend to believe people are honest with their words.
He believes also in like creating a like state for white people, like making the United States for white people and kicking out everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Roger that.
Which is like literally what Hitler argued for before. And it's like, no, the Jews, they should have their own state. We need to kick them out and have our own.
Oh.
And then, you know, that's a
There are
slippery slope.
videos of him hosting like not lecture. I guess it's a lecture, but like it's him speaking, and then literally everyone holding up the Heil sign and stuff.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
like
Yikes.
he's
They don't
straight
hide
up
it.
white supremacist, white
Well,
nationalist.
I guess they do try to hide it, like when like because that was supposed to be like a private meeting for like their little group, and like someone recorded
like
it, and it got on the
they
internet.
hit it so bad though. They're like in a hotel,
Yeah.
like with
Yeah.
cameras everywhere,
Yeah,
and then the Atlantic. Actually, no, they invited the Atlantic to videotape that.
that's one of the things about like the internet is I think the internet is like obviously there's a lot of crazy shit like alt-right people can get together on it and like people can spread conspiracy, but I think generally speaking the internet has been a force for good in the sense of it's God, I was having a conversation about this with Sadie the other day and I'm trying to remember what I said because I said something and she said it's like democratizing information, and I'm like, yes, but not just that. It is democratizing information to a certain degree, but it also is a place where someone with not that much money can write a blog, and it can get more attention than like that same person with not a lot of money trying to do it in print media. And you know, like,
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess like tying this on to like free speech and that kind of stuff, like taking Richard Spencer for example, because I think he's a very extreme example because he's like literally he is the definition of alt-right. And that's very extreme kind of volatile speech he has. He doesn't specifically incite violence, so technically what
Right.
he's saying doesn't violate any laws. It's
Right.
fucked up morally, but legally speaking, he's totally in the clear. And I feel so like, and bringing that into the kind of larger conversation we're having here, like, should those ideas be shut down? They're not necessarily specifically inciting violence, even though someone might hear that and then decide to act violently
right.
based on racial grounds themselves.
This is where I would draw the
So
distinction
where's
between.
that line?
I think the line there is the state. Let me put it this way. This might be the wrong way to word it, but the state doesn't necessarily have to do anything in that instance. And it's more, I think it is a good thing to have like an anti-fascist movement or group of people to like deplatform them as citizens. I think that's a better model than like the state, especially the capitalist state, drawing lines on that one.
So
what do
you
you
think
mean
it should be
by
self-regulated?
I want a quick clarification. What do you mean by deplatform as a citizen?
Like Antifa, I don't know, like for instance, Richard Spencer's going to speak at a university and like a bunch of activists get that canceled. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, which is like saying it should be self-censored, right? Like it's the idea that like a free marketplace, the companies that are racist, the companies that are not doing moral things will not succeed in the free marketplace.
Right.
It's the same thing with like the information marketplace. Like the ideas that are not good will not, promulgate themselves amongst the populace, but that's not necessarily true. And we've seen this hundreds of times in history.
Right.
When enough of bad ideas have like a following because people are disenfranchised by the system, which we're seeing right now. Like they're both the left and the right are disenfranchised by the system, but our solutions are vastly different. And like I just think like But it's just difficult when you say deregulate and just let them handle it for themselves. It's easy for those ideas to get out of hand very quickly.
So
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I feel like in the instance of like Richard Spencer, for example, and kind of alt-right, racist kind of ideologies propagating, how much responsibility does like the New York Times or the Atlantic have for talking about his ideas? Wouldn't it have been better to ignore them rather than
Yes.
platform them?
Yes.
And I feel like
100%.
even like Antifa going up and saying, "Oh, we're gonna make a big deal out of this guy going to this university to talk," I feel like kind of
Yeah, that's a good
creates-
question of strategy, right? Like, are you bringing more attention to the person by making a big deal, or not? And that's a question of like individual strategy and individual moments and stuff. But I think like
I feel like it has helped more than it has hurt their movements. Being like the alt-right movement, I think it has helped the alt-right movement more than anything.
I don't know. I'm not even saying I disagree. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I think
it's-
I think it might be impossible.
But I think there are instances in which, like, let's say, like, Richard Spencer is going to speak in Daily Plaza in Chicago tomorrow. If there is a march to stop that from happening by a mass, like, group of people, a mass movement of people, I think that is a good thing. That type of thing. Like, for instance, like, there's like me and like some like DSA people went to, there's a racist sign put up over the Lakeshore Drive in Lincoln Park, like on North Avenue, like on one of the bridges that go over the highway. That's like, I don't know, it was something about like immigrants get out or America for Americans or some shit like that. And we went over there and like took the sign down. That's an easy one, but that's like a no-brainer. That's a 3-pointer. That's easy.
It's a 3-pointer, damn.
Or sorry, layup. Maybe layup is the right analogy.
You just got the most difficult point. You went for the half court shot.
Right. Literally the opposite analogy.
It's okay. I got you, man.
Yeah. Point being, like, yeah, I don't know. And it's like, the left is about, Marxists or anarchists are about like democratic movements drawing those lines and not necessarily the state doing so. And I think that is the right structure. Now, whether or not it's like a good idea strategically to do it this time versus that time, that's all strategy. It depends on the instance. I don't know.
Yeah, I think my concern with this kind of stuff is that, like, even like this kind of makes sense. The whole Parler situation too is it creates taboo, but it should be a taboo. I'm not saying it shouldn't be a taboo. Like the ideologies, Richard Spencer.
Yeah, but taboo draws people in,
kind
of like smoking weed when it's
Exactly.
illegal. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Exactly. And I feel like it's like, oh, they don't want this to be heard. And then the alt-right will say, like, yeah, they want us to be silenced because they don't want you to hear the truth.
Right.
And then, like, next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, I'm radicalized. I feel like these people are against me. And then you take the Parler situation. It's like, well, you're not really stopping the ideas.
Right.
You're making them taboo. You're making them appealing. It's what is the rebel without a cause, leather jacket, smoking, who is that guy's name? You're kind of turning like a rebel kind of thing, like where it's cool. And then they can now pitch themselves as the rebels.
And it's not even like they're not even being that oppressed. It's just it's one app, but like it's a marketing tool now.
But the point now is that it's been boldened more, and now
it's in the news
just moving
and all
the
that
conversation. Yeah, but also then the people themselves are just moving to a new area. Whereas like before, they were having that conversation out in the open, out in public, stupidly considering the kind of things they were talking about doing. But now they say those things on Signal. Signal's traffic went up hugely. I think a lot of that obviously is Elon Musk kind of propping them up, but also because that's an avenue that they can now go to is these encrypted applications where people can't see them.
Recently, or like over the last year or two?
No, like literally within the past few weeks, their traffic went up 1,100%.
Jesus.
So like, you think that is indicative of people leaving Parler, or?
I mean, it's not Parler specifically, because I don't think Parler had that many users, but I think that it is I think people are feeling pressure to now just have these conversations quietly as opposed to loudly.
Sure.
Which I think was going to delve people further
I just wonder how much
ignorance.
of the reason I ask about the time thing on signals, because there's I know plenty of like paranoid or semi-worried leftists that have gotten on Signal in the last year when I've been on it forever.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on it for a long time too. Yeah, I mean, it's true of people on the left too who might want to talk about some more extreme ideas and don't want that to be out in the public.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of regardless of ideology. I think that taboo factor is extremely powerful.
There is
and
some
if you're moving
merit.
a conversation. Well, just really quick here.
Yeah.
When you make that conversation private, where they're only talking to each other, and you're encouraging the echo chamber, you're encouraging radicalization at that point. So like I went to Parler before it was shut down because I'm like, what is it looking like? And I just saw people having the same kind of conversations that I would see on Twitter generally. But however, there's no one then challenging the ideas that were blatantly wrong. Like, for example, they were saying this like hypocrisy of how Parler could be taken down or Trump could be taken down on Twitter, but they allow Hang Pence to be trending. It's like, yeah, but Hang Pence is trending because they're talking about you guys saying Hang Pence. They're not. There's not leftists out there saying. I'm sure there are leftists out there who want to hang Pence, but like the reason that was trending is because there were people on the right saying hang Pence, and people on the left were commenting saying, wow, that's really fucked up. And that's why that was trending, not because people were advocating for hanging Pence. But
Right.
no one was on Parler to challenge them on that idea at all. So now all these people believe something completely factually incorrect. And there's just no one to challenge, so it radicalized them further.
I think what's more important might be less the echo chamber point, because these people are going to be in echo chambers no matter what, versus if you maybe not ignore them, but if you take them less seriously, they won't grow as much. I can definitely see that. The other thing, like for instance, like to this like degree publicly, I don't think there's been like an app that's like mostly used by the left that's been shut down. I feel like that might have been the case with like TikTok, but TikTok's used by everyone. So I don't know if I can make that argument.
And it's not really a big political platform, is it?
Oh, it's pretty big for politics.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I only see like, you look at this fun edited video on TikTok. That's kind of my only context.
That's the
for
thing
TikTok.
is like TikTok has like a lot of content. So like.
Yeah. Well, it's like saying Twitter's only for politics. But there's way more on there too.
Right. Or like YouTube.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think like it's been more than just ignoring us, but like the left, like Marxist ideas and anarchist ideas have been purposely buried in this country, but also kind of like what you're saying, like whenever there's like legitimate movements. For instance, in our organization yesterday, in our branch meeting, we compared and contrasted the Battle of Wisconsin. The battle in Wisconsin was basically Scott Walker trying to privatize. What was he trying to? I forget the context, but it was like really abhorrent shit, and 200,000 people occupied the Capitol for them not to pass this bill, and then like 8 Democrats fled to Illinois so that they wouldn't have quorum to pass the bill, and it was a whole thing. And like that was more people than this fucking Capitol uprising, but in the Battle of Wisconsin, because it was for leftist goals of like, you know, doing a Wisconsin general strike and pushing back and giving unions more power and giving you know, workers better protections and stuff, it wasn't covered. Whereas right-wing shit like this always gets coverage. Like the left does not have its fucking like New York Times profile of our equivalent of like Richard Spencer, whether equivalent meaning like hateful or just like that far in a certain political direction.
Who's the equivalent person that's not being platformed?
Yeah.
It's me. Platform me.
It's Daniel Organa.
It's profile me. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready for my close-up.
But who's your Senator Palpatine on the left side?
Who do I hate? I don't know if there's anyone I hate that I can name off the top of
Or
my head.
who do you look up to, like Senator Palpatine, if you were Vader?
I don't like this analogy.
I think what he's saying though is I guess like does Cornel West or does Richard Spencer or like someone like that, do they not get propagated?
Yeah, I mean I think that's also true to a certain degree. I mean, like even like the more left people.
Uh-oh,
I'm getting echoed. Who's echoing me?
One AirPod instead of two because they're dying on power, and I don't know where my wired headphones are, so that might have been part of it.
Oh, it's you.
Maybe. I do not accept full responsibility because I do not know.
Let me see. What's happening?
Yeah, it's you.
Okay, one second.
I will temporarily mute you. Anyway, I think you can unmute yourself. We'll find out. If you can't, holler in chat. Obviously, I won't hear you, but
Wait, it's still me. It's still echoing for me.
oh, really? Like right now or
Yeah.
in Twitch?
No, right now. You just started echoing, and then I can hear myself. Oh, it was awful.
Oh, I don't hear it on my end, which means the stream isn't hearing it, so I don't know what that is.
Yes.
Still?
You cannot be silenced. No more echoing, though. Everyone sounds better.
Okay. Yeah, I forget what point I was making, but
We have to get you on. You have to get your profile on the New York Times.
that was real almost bad. I almost lost a Pokemon. Woof. Yeah, New York Times profiled me. I'm a leader. Nah, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, it's one of those things where like there's I think validity to the like ignore them thing, but sometimes you can't. I mean, it's hard to have a criteria or like a rubric for when that is in either direction. Having the rubric of when do you ignore versus when do you confront is, I think, a hard one. I think it's a worthy endeavor, but I do think it's hard. I haven't really thought about it. There's probably other people who have.
Well, what have we done in history? Like, historically, have there been successful
What have we done in
ideas?
history? Like fire,
Yeah.
civilization.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's good to look at things that we've done to quell things like where the ideas have been really dangerous or radical in a really dangerous way.
Or not to.
Or not to, exactly. What did we refuse to do as a group, and how have we suffered because of it?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of when I brought up the example in the beginning. That's kind of was the point of bringing up like fascists. Is that like fascists will use liberal democracies' freedom of speech to recruit and
Right.
spread and actively undermine it once they're in power, right? So like,
Yep.
I don't know. So you gotta I don't know what my point is here. Not let that happen. Deplatform them. And like deplatforming them might not look like the state says there shall be no fascist speech, but like, you know, it could be like individuals are like, that's fascist, fuck that. And like more like individual action kind of thing. Is it safe to unmute Holden? Let's see.
Oh my god, he didn't hear you this whole time? Oh shit.
No, I've been able to hear. I thought you guys could hear me. I'm like, man, they're really ignoring what I'm saying.
No, I had
Because
you
on my
muted
end,
because
it
of the
doesn't
echo.
look like a mute. Okay, is this better now?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So I was kind of asking though, like, you know, I want to go back to the state of who is the person on the left who is not allowed, or I shouldn't say on the left because that's too broad, but like, who's this person from the kind of Marxist mindset who's not being platformed? Because I mean, I feel like how else would we have found these people? Like,
I think
does
the
Cornel
only-
West or, you know, Zizek or Richard Wolff, do they not get a platform?
I think Richard Wolff is probably the only one in there that I would consider like an actual Marxist. But like, I feel like I would have discovered, the only reason I discovered Richard Wolff is because of the internet. They certainly don't often get. What's funny is they get platformed actually more by like Fox News than like MSNBC.
I was just going to say, the longest form media interview I've seen with Richard Wolff was him on Fox News.
It was like
it was
Barney
a horrible
or whatever the fuck
conversation.
that guy's name is.
But yeah,
The British dude, I forget his name.
yeah, I don't remember. I don't pay attention to him that much, but yeah, it was him.
And so like, yeah, I mean, there's just an example of like, for instance, Fred Hampton. Like, Fred Hampton did a lot to organize people in Chicago against racist policing and like for labor rights and stuff under the banner of the Black Panthers. And he did a fuck ton before he was murdered by the police at the age of 21. I had to learn that shit on the internet. Oh. Hold on, my headphones
What's-
fell out. There we go. Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you for a split second.
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Yeah, no one was talking.
And then it was
Uh,
silent.
Wait, so you were talking about this guy, 21-year-old, did a lot of things before he died.
I didn't know any of that
uh,
until the internet.
And I think that's the case for every side, every corner of the internet, every corner of the political spectrum. They have been more radicalized by the internet. And it's very easy.
I would
Go
push
on.
back just a little bit in that because the ideas that the left push are anathema to capitalism, they get silenced suppressed way more often than right wing, which is compatible with capitalism, thought. And in fact, the whole system, have you seen that little drawing where it's like you have the whole spectrum, and then like because of the role the Democrats play, what is called the left just keeps getting marked out with a red Sharpie and moved to the center, and then the left keeps moving to the center, which eventually is right. That is exactly what, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. But anyway, that is exactly what's happened in this country so much. Let me see if I can find.
What, is
Let's
it
also
called
just
the
issue the two-party system.
Yep.
There's a, what's the word? The window. It's like the guy's name, and he has like a window named after him.
Overton
About,
window.
like-
The Overton window.
The Overton. That's it. Overton window.
Yeah, I mean the Overton window is like a real thing.
Yeah. No. Totally.
God damn it! I want to find this fucking meme now and show it.
I have not heard of the Overton window. I'm looking it up right now.
The Overton window is basically like the window within politics
Oh.
that like shit is acceptable, and that it shifts in either direction.
Yeah.
People would argue now that the Overton window has broken into two separate windows and is moving further in either direction, which I think is true to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, but here's why it makes sense too. Media is inherently going to make content that speaks to the majority of people. The majority of people are going to fit within that Overton window to begin with.
But then, like, the media makes it's a cyclical thing where, like, the media is controlled by the capitalist class and will only cover on certain things. Therefore, now the people only believe what they see, and you know what I mean? It's cyclical.
Yeah.
Hold up, I'm gonna open this
Well,
image.
I don't know how controversial this opinion is going to be here, but that's kind of like why I like the Jeffrey Epstein thing. It's like covered, but like not really covered.
Right, because it like literally everyone in power had ties to him, from the Clintons
exactly.
to Trump to whatever.
Yeah.
Hold up, I'm gonna switch view here to show this meme, because this is kind of what I'm saying. But, and that like media that is owned by capitalist interest and therefore reports on things that the capitalist interest wants you to report on is this, right? Where the actual left, which were the people that got us the minimum wage and the 8-hour workday and the 40-hour work week in the 1890s and the early 1900s, their political beliefs would be described as hard left nowadays and like extreme, when it was just like, yeah, we want people to have power and we want democracy in the economy. Why is it so fucking extreme to believe that? It's like how Bernie was always like, apparently it's radical to want everyone to have health care. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the ideas and the history of the left. For instance, there are, thank you Philanthus for hopping by. There are two of us, aside from me now in this chat, that have gone to high school in a relatively like liberal high school in suburban New York. When they talked about the Haymarket Affair or other labor struggles, they very quickly went over and were like, some anarchists burned some stuff, and then it went badly, and that was it. They did not touch on what the Haymarket Affair actually was, and that people got hanged unjustly. They didn't touch on that at all. And this is a quote-unquote liberal high school, right? Add on top of that they don't talk about what happened at Blair Mountain, the Battle of Blair Mountain. The Battle of Blair Mountain, what year was this? The Battle of Blair Mountain was a fight between coal miners and like state troopers of the military or something. Now we gotta look it up. It was the first time that the United States dropped, the first time that bombs were dropped on people in the United States, I think. It was either this or, It was either this or some sort of, not a slave uprising, but a different uprising. It's like the first times that like bombs, I think this is the first time bombs were dropped from airplanes on American citizens, and it was the American government doing it. When was this? Whatever. Anyway, it happened. 1921. I thought it was in the 1800s. Never mind. And we're never
Literally
taught shit
just
about
under
this.
100, just under 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't talk about this once in history class for a reason, right? So like there is already a huge right-wing slant in like media and what we're taught, etc. in this country. And like underrepresentation of leftist history, which includes like labor movements and movements for like black liberation and women's liberation and stuff. And they only talk about women's liberation in the context of like Susan B. Anthony and like rich women pushing for it, but not like the fact that working class women were like beaten by cops for it, right? They never talk about shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, I could go on forever about this shit, obviously.
So yeah, this is one of those things where this all
Wow,
all makes
Philanthus goes,
sense.
word to your moms, I'm here to drop bombs at the Battle of Blair Mountain. This... Thanks, bud.
How can we know that this is attributed specifically to a capitalist class and wouldn't happen as a natural phenomenon anyway? Like, a society is going to conform to a certain set of ideologies that would fit into the Overton window anyway. Like, it just as an example, in a household, there are things you can say and not say in your family because you don't want to, upset the family dynamic, right? Like, that would play out on a societal level as well.
Well, this
So,
stems from Marx's idea that certain aspect, not all aspects, but certain aspects of culture are created and sustained by those in power to support and prop up the ideology backing the current system in power. So like, oh, why didn't I use cut before? It's super effective. I am dumb. I didn't use that at any point before.
You should lick them.
That's right. I was doing lick the whole time. And I was like, wait, cut is super effective. Why am I not using it? But yeah, so like, I already derailed what I was thinking. Whatever.
Oh, so the question was like the Overton window. I mean, I think you're right that there's obviously going to be a power dynamic as to what is allowed in the Overton
You're asking like how much
window.
of it is the culture and how much of it is the...
Yeah, naturally a culture is going to create their own Overton window.
So, Marxist thought is that the superstructure, the culture, is propped up by the structure, the economy. So like feudalist thought was propped up because of like the feudalist economy needed that ideology to be spread to prop up, the system. And it is that plus a feedback loop. There's a feedback loop there.
Otherwise, it would never change.
Exactly. Well, and the feedback loop is what like perpetuates it. My brain is...
I misinterpreted by feedback loop. So like the culture still has to be part of it, otherwise it wouldn't change.
Exactly. And
There
so
are,
like
there are elements that play off of each other.
yeah, so
Go back to the whole idea of like multiple hierarchies all playing off each other.
Mhm. So when like Marxism and anarchism started kicking off in the United States because of mass immigration from Germany and other parts of Central Europe where these ideas were spreading like wildfire, we saw a lot of that there or here. There were like a ton of anarchist and Marxist newspapers in Chicago and stuff like that. But as soon as those movements got crushed and those ideas are branded as like extreme or other or whatever the fuck, then they get swept under the rug, even though there are still like folks in society that would ascribe to Marxist theory and are like still advancing it and talking about it. Trotsky was talking about it until he was killed by one of Stalin's henchmen in Mexico with an ice pick, which is weird as fuck that happened, but that happened.
How does, and I'm just curious so like kind of FDR is kind of seen as an example of a president who kind of did more for the people.
Yeah.
How does that kind of play in to all this?
FDR, the only reason FDR did any of that stuff is because the capitalist system was literally being threatened by mass movements of record number unionized. So point being, those ideas still like were popular like until after FDR. So like Marxist and anarchist ideas were popular for a while despite them trying to brand it as something extreme or, you know, un-American, yada yada, and like suppressing their newspapers and stuff. And the trend of leftists growing in this country continued into FDR's regime, and there was literally a record number of unionized Americans. There's literally been, oh god, he hypnosis me before I hypnosis you, you fucking asshole. Son of a bitch. I'm just gonna go to the Pokemon Center. There were a record number of unionized Americans, higher than ever in the United States. And there were record number Socialist Party or like Socialist Parties members in the country. And they were all literally threatening a general strike. I think one may have happened. Don't quote me on that. I don't think so, though. I'm not entirely sure. I think there might have been like, if not like a general strike, like big strikes happening because FDR wasn't doing what the people were asking for, Social Security, and all those like government measures that we benefit from today.
So the culture was pushing against the capitalist and kind of found a middle ground.
Yeah, and FDR had to do them to save the system, right? Because if he didn't do anything, then it would just like fuel the fire and capitalism would have been overthrown probably.
Yeah. So the system had to change in order to
save itself.
To save itself, yeah.
I mean,
so
like FDR's like famous quote is that like he is proud that he did what he had to do to save capitalism. I forget if it was like on his deathbed or he's talking about his presidency. I forget the context, but that is an FDR quote.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not surprised that that's how he would view it. I mean, to get to the top of any sort of system like that, you have to be supportive of that system.
Yeah.
Richard Wolff's never going to be president of the United States of America because that wouldn't make any sense.
Right. If only. I don't want him to be like the economic advisor or something.
It'll never happen.
I know.
It'll never happen. Yeah. So I feel like the system has been responsive, but I feel like kind of the critique right now is that the system doesn't feel like it's being responsive, and that's why there's kind of that big, pushback right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like to hedge against capitalism. Hold on, I gotta see what these fools are saying in the fucking chat. They're just dropping emotes. You're a great one. Okay. Anyway.
Meaningful conversation.
Yeah, man, I don't know. At this point, I feel like I'm kind of ranting, which I tend to do because of my ADHD brain. But
no worries. I've been enjoying it. This is a good conversation.
I'm helping actually Eric in a few minutes talk about his, because I think he just became an affiliate or whatever the one up from the regular. So I'm going to help him with his badge and his first emote. So we're going to have a chat in 2 minutes. So I'm going to have to...
Nice.
Oh, wait. What is this? Is this his own? Oh, no, this is someone else. This is coffee.
What is this?
I thought he had one before.
That's probably a good point to call the stream because I need to hop off anyway. Let's go prep for...
Okay. I can see you've made a lot of progress in Pokemon. You made a lot of progress.
A lot of grinding. Hey, grinding needs to be done, man.
I know. Off stream it does.
Off stream, I see you. Hey, at least I moved it really fast. I did the fast mode in the emulator.
You did, but you also clicked very slow, so it's as if you did.
I know. Shut up.
No, it's fun to watch.
All right, yo. Well, thanks for stopping by. Oh my god, I'm still on full screen mode because I'm a fool. I never went back to this. Oh well. I've
been reading Wikipedia and
watching the stream.
And Storm Silver.
Well, anyway, thanks for stopping by. Much appreciated. And thanks for watching. Peace.